Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, MBs. Welcome to Warui Deshou's Good Boy Hour, because we'll be talking about a real good boy. Maybe two of them, depending on how our opinion pans out. But no, actually, this is not the Good Boy Hour. It's actually our second stream podcast. This is going to be covering Horimiya for this particular season, which I think is, what is it, winter 2020? I've lost track of time.
It is winter 2021, indeed, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know that today is a day that ends with the letter Y. That's about it, really. Everything else is just kind of blending together in some sort of temporal mush. But anyway, that the dulcet tones you might be hearing if you're listening to this on, podcast form on MP3, or maybe you've decided to, listen to this while wearing a sleep mask. I don't know. You're not watching the live stream firsthand. Is of course none other than my very good friend, the Subtle Doctor.
Hello, hello. It is I. Shadon, how are you, my friend? It's lovely to see you. And sorry, I'll let you actually answer that question. Go. Go.
I am well because I have this giant beer. I'm a man of simple pleasures and simple tastes and simple needs. And, it all works. So cheers, everyone. Happy Friday.
Love to podcast on a Friday. So good. And I mean, I know it's what we do on the regular now, but it's still so great. Also, hi, everyone. I hope that you are doing as well as you can be, and I hope you're as safe and healthy as you can be. The YouTube chat is working, so once we went live, I was able to do it. We've been testing shit with this OBS and this stream for half an hour. Shadon, 40 minutes. More Shadon's been so patient with me, and been testing the resolution and also trying to get the YouTube chat to work, which it didn't for the whole time. Always the YouTube monkey would appear with his, toolbox and his dumb
poop everywhere. That's as monkeys do,
oops, something went wrong. But as soon as we go live and I refresh it, it works. So
yeah,
I would have been able to if the fonts suck, if it's too small, I'm having trouble reading it.
Is it Comic Sans?
It is not Comic Sans. Maybe
we're fine. We're fine. We're good. I mean, you did say it was OBS after all that was responsible for all your woes, and if you look at the acronym therefore, BS, in the OBS, just saying, it writes itself. It's truth in advertising kind of thing. But yeah, Doc has been here working really hard. He's literally been hitting the thing with a wrench. There's been a lot of just duct taping going on. Bit of PVA glue.
I wanted to upgrade us, but it just wasn't, I couldn't get it to work.
We're the clues in the name, Warui Deshou, probably a bad podcast. We can't be upgraded.
No,
that's going to be our new tagline. We cannot be upgraded.
We cannot go to 4K
if we made personal computers and motherboards, there'd be no expansion slots on it. It would just be you'd just have the words "lol nope" on it or something like that.
Yeah, you're stuck with the SCSI cable forever.
Oh, whoa! That's a blast from the past. Well, next thing you say, we're going to start handing out our podcasts on 5 1/4-inch floppy disks. I don't know how we're going to make that happen. It'll be a text script. It'll be a text transcript of some description. Anyway, archaic, obsolete computer systems aside, we're here, of course, today to talk about a new show that's out, that's been voted on by our lovely patrons. Thank you very much for your participation in helping us choose this. It won out in the end over Skate the Infinity, which I'm actually kind of glad about, because if I will take the name as given, that means it's a show that will just go on forever, and I'm not ready for that. No. I mean, obviously, the way they call it "Skate the Finite," that would be a bit lame. Anyway,
that would be bad. Yes,
that'd be quite bad. And of course, that means I'm no longer can use my Avril Lavigne jokes either. But I'm okay with that because instead we're covering Horimiya, which is a slice of life romance rom-com affair kind of thing. The usual stuff. But our patrons helps us pick this because they wanted us to try and delve deeper into the show as opposed to Skate. Which, I mean, not to dismiss that show as being bad or anything like
rules. That. Skate rules.
I just went with the what the patron says. Hey, let's go, let's go have a look at it. So yeah, we're going to get inside in a moment. Doc is of course going to go through creatives. We're going to talk about the show itself. We're also going to go through patron questions, of which we have a veritable cornucopia, a word I don't get to use often enough. Love to use that a bit more. But yeah, we're going to get into that in a moment. One thing I'll note while Doc is still, tinkering, while he's still tightening the nuts and bolts,
That's right,
is that this is our second stream format. And for those of you who might be new to it, might be catching on the free swear and wondering how this is different than our regular format. When we do second stream, we don't do a plot summary of any sort. Even not the, which I know Doc valiantly tried last week with Wonder Egg Priority. He gave it a really good go. It was an A for effort, mate.
It was terrible.
If
the
I
worst
could,
one we've ever done. I stand by that.
If don't worry, you'll get your time, to have your vengeance on me and ask me to sum up the next couple of episodes of Wonder Egg.
Moment.
Yeah, you're just rubbing your hands with glee. There is going to be no plot summary. We will provide context to talking points and answers to questions where is appropriate, but we're going on the assumption that you've seen the episode yourself. So there we go. And this is Horimiya, not Horimiya. I'm getting that joke, Alex. I know you made that joke. That's to Horimiya as Cells at Work Black is to Cells at Work. Just to point that out.
Okay.
I'm
ignorant of the Cells cinematic universe. So that joke went over my. But hopefully, I know Son of Rackham in chat. He understands. He is hip to the Cellsiverse, so that joke was just for him. But before we get really started, there's a couple things I wanted to say. Firstly, I'm really, really happy that people chose this show for us to look at and cover here. I was watching it regardless, but independent of it fucking ruling, which it does. I mean, it's so good. I love this show dearly already. But independent of that, I think it provides at least me with a nice balance. We're talking about Wonder Egg and the really fucking just some really dark and dire human emotions and parts of the teenage experience. This is such a nice chaser from that, a reminder that there's joy and innocence and sweetness and goodness and humanity in the world. It's just it's great. And then the other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to ask you, I don't know if I've asked you this before, maybe we've been podcasting for over 5 years. So,
oh my God,
what more is left to be said?
What have we done with our lives? What have we been doing? I could have learned rocket science.
Could have gotten a graduate degree of some kind, but we've been watching and talking about anime together.
I could have started a successful FTSE 100 company with a grant from my parents that I never actually. Fuck that. No, okay, 5 years. Jesus Christ.
But I'm gonna change things up maybe, and hopefully ask you something I haven't asked you before.
Uh-oh.
So in terms of anime, rom-coms, or romances, do you judge them any differently than other shows? Because I kind of feel maybe we did talk about this a little bit with Given. Because in my head, I kind of do to a certain extent, because I feel I don't know, they're just sort of not going for the same things, or maybe exploring a lot of the same territory that a lot of the shows we look at on here. These are not there's meat on the bone in Horimiya. There's a lot for us to talk about, just like we did in Yesterday and Given. I don't know, but but still, there's these I don't know, the romance itself is just this roller coaster, and it's how do you compare this though to something like Penguin Drum or I don't know, I'm trying to think of a non-Ikuhara work, or Vinland Saga, or they're just going for these different things, and yet I feel Horimiya, and to some extent Yesterday, and certainly Given, taps into like my emotional core and presses the button. It's hacked me, and it presses my emotional buttons.
It's hacked the planet.
Yeah, it's hacked the
your
brain.
planet stuff. Oh man. Well, that's a big question. And I think the answer is no. I wouldn't judge it in the same way I would judge like a more serious dramatic work, because to analogize, like, you know, if you want to assess someone's proficiency at, say, mathematics, you give them a maths paper.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, by the way, a prelude to like any talk about like exams being shit, because they're not. Like, let's not go there. You understand where I'm coming from. But then, of course, if you want to assess someone's, you know, creative writing ability, you don't then give them the same math paper. You have to approach it from different standards. You know, you have to assess things with different tools, with different objectives in mind. Like if it's a rom-com, for example, it's got probably, you know, two primary emotional goals, which is to make you laugh and to make you feel warm inside, I would say. Seems reasonable. Yeah. Whereas I think that, you know, like you mentioned, for example, Vinland Saga, like, I think that did make me laugh a couple of times, but I wouldn't call that the primary goal, shall we say?
No.
I mean, Vinland Saga certainly was not a musical comedy, although I really hope that Makoto Yukimura actually does write that version of it someday. Ask a lad, he's now your actual dad. That kind of thing.
Oh my god. But that's terrible. But we rate them with the same 5-point scale, you know?
Well, the 5-point scale is arbitrary anyway. I mean, let me be honest here, folks listening at home. Like, if you put more value in our ratings at the end than the actual discussion that preludes them, then you're doing it wrong. Like, they're just more like a quick summation of what we've already said. And I wouldn't take them as anything meaningful in the same way you wouldn't take like a numeric score as anything meaningful without the qualitative discussion to go with it. So yeah, I'm saying, you know, we'll do the 5-star racing as normal. We'll throw in the jokey bits with that and all that. But honestly, the thing you want to pay attention to is the meat of our discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's well said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from there, should we plug the Patreon? Because there might be people listening to this.
Is it leaking?
It might. It's
people are getting away
in the future.
Yeah, once you've signed up to our Patreon, there is no escape. I'm sorry, but you're going to be financing my, my addiction to alcohol for the rest of your days. No, I'm kidding, of course. So, Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/Warui Deshou. What can you get if you sign up to our Patreon? Well, apart from our eternal gratitude and admiration, because you're an amazing person who wants to support us financially, you also gain access to, you know, 3 different tiers of increasing benefits and returns. You can get yourself on the $2 tier, which you must already probably be on if you listen to this on the premium. But if you're on free to air, $2 tier gets you access to our Discord. You can ask questions about our Stream of Thought series that we're covering, which in this case is One Direct Priority. You can take part in all sorts of stuff like that. Tier 2 is our Can of Money tier. After amazing breakout character Kanamori, or who may as well just call her Can of Money, to be honest.
Yeah.
She
Big Mom of the Decade.
This tier gives you access to our second stream, which of course is currently Horimiya. You also get the chance to pick future second streams with us, help us decide that. And you can ask us questions about the second stream podcast as we go along through our Discord. Because you also get the tier 1 benefits bundled in. And then finally, of course, we have our, Viking experience tier, the Askalad, I got 99 jumps guards, but a Viking ain't one.
Straight out of Vinland.
Straight out of Vinland, yeah, exactly. That's that tier, and that gets you access to our Deshou the Third podcast series, which this season will be on Girls' Last Tour, and you get to ask us questions about that as we go along as well. So do check that out. Feel free to drop us some money if you have, if you've got going spare and you want to see us support. The money goes to things like our hosting fees on like a couple of services, and on top of that, we also contribute a slice of our revenue every month to the new anime making system, which was previously known under another name as the Anime Dormitory Projects. So it's always good causes and good places. There you go.
Yes, very good. Anime Dorm Projects still ongoing. Different projects concurrently going. Same funder and lead person, Jun-san. But yeah, thank you, Shadon. All right, let's get into it though. Get into Horimiya. Very excited to talk about this. So
ho ho ho, yes.
I'm gonna say shit. Why did that make me laugh? I'm such an easy laugh. It's sad. Okay. Horimiya, aka Hori-san to Miyamoto-kun, is or was, I should say. Well, you know what? It still exists, but it's not currently running. A manga, a romantic comedy.
You made it sound like all the copies of it had been thrown on a fire.
Yeah,
it was a manga until it got banned and burned.
Yeah,
for witchcraft.
The Library War anime? That's about this manga. By the way, Library War is fucking good. We should watch that together. So this is rom-com manga that was 10 volumes, self-published in Square Enix from 2007 to 2011 by someone who simply goes by the name Hiro. Simply Hiro. No, and like not like Hiro like Hiro, but like Hiro like, the Jet Li film.
That doesn't help me because I've encountered a couple of characters in my time named Hero who are all terrible.
Yeah, well, that guy, the guy who has an emote in our Discord, is spelled with 2 E's. Hiro, Yui. But this is not Mr. Yui-san. This is just Hiro. Again, like the Jet Li film. No other name. His Square Enix published manga. And I gotta tell you, people, there might be manga devotees out there, but the cover I'm looking at on the Wikipedia page looks fucking terrible. I'm sorry. I hate the way the character designs look. They look awful.
That was drawn by Hero. Drew that when he was under an alter ego known as Zero.
Yeah. I think like, oh no, did I close it? Oh no.
It was a reflex. You were so offended by the art, you just closed it down.
Yeah. So I think one of the first things I wanted to say was actually to shout out the character designer of the show, because man, I think it's just this massive improvement on making
when you spin straw into gold.
Yeah, making the character designs appealing. It's Haruko Izuka, and she did the character designs. Like, there's a bunch of stuff here, but I'll tell you that she's also like an animation director and key animator. In fact, she's the chief animation director for Horimiya up to this point. Has done character design for Idolmaster, but what I knew her from was the Little Busters anime adaptations. She's the character design there, and like that was like, oh yeah, these do look like the Little Busters. So right. I think she crushed it and helped make this way more palatable. And I'm not the kind of person that usually is like character designs make or break it. I mean, if the show is good, I'll watch it. I think if like the substance of it beyond the design work, I will still. I mean, I'm a fan of the Violence of Hamlin television series, for God's sake. But yeah, those are some rough looking character designs there. There's also an OAV that apparently is still ongoing. Like, there are 4 episodes, but it says that instead of the release date being 2012 to 2020 or something like that, it's 2012 to present, which leads you to believe there's more to come.
Oh, wow. That's operating on like Mega Man intro logic there. They should have just replaced it with 20XX.
Yes, I agree. It's like the Giant Robo OAV, which came out over a period of like 10 years, 7 episodes. But the TV series, of course, we know is a 2021 winter show produced by Cloverworks, titans of the industry at the moment.
They're doing all the things. I mean, aren't they also doing Wonder Egg Priorities? It says how different team it'll be, but
and Neverland 2.
Oh,
there. We should probably not say anything more for fear of going off on a tangent.
My God.
But Neverland 2. Good for you, Cloverworks, for so. But who directed this show? Masashi Ishiyama, that's who. And what has he been up to? So storyboarding and key animation credits in a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to see if he has been a director in anything else. Let me Control F and do this.
I think when he was at school.
Definitely. Let's see. Lots of some episode direction, OP direction, chief animation director of Dragon Crisis. Don't know what that is.
I'm assuming there's a crisis and there may or may not be a dragon.
Worked on the erased endings. Whoa. Okay. Holy shit.
Uh-oh.
This.
Uh-oh.
Wow. Directed Shinsekai Yorai from the New World. Really? Holy cow. Man, that's an all-timer as well. That's an all-time favorite sci-fi dystopia anything. That is excellent.
I need to get on that at some point, actually, based on that.
Oh,
I'm always down for a good sci-fi dystopia.
It's so good. We would have a lot to talk about. It's one of those things I remember, like when it came out. Nick Creamer, aka Bobda, was not like, he wasn't working for ANN at the time, so he hadn't blown up and gotten like super busy. And he could talk to the masses, the plebeians like me. So I remember we chatted a little bit about that. We argued about whether a certain character was morally good or bad in the end. Like there's a lot of people talking about that.
You know what's funny you say about talking to the masses when you could still do that, and I can't help but think, given some stuff I've seen recently, that maybe talking to the masses is a bad idea these days.
It could be very bad, sure.
This isn't news.
Well, listen.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, if you can, I'm just gonna throw out there, if you're one of those people, you might want to get yourself checked for a brain-eating amoeba.
Please. Just leave it.
Just gonna throw it out there.
Super annoying people are always in and around the Anime News Network. Reading it, not writing for it. Their editorial team is good.
Not even reading it. You're giving them way too much credit.
That's true. I am. Animation director for The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which is what a credit. I mean, that's
a fine film.
That's a great. You've seen it.
Yes.
Oh, so good. I really like that. So have you seen any other Mamoru Hosoda movies? Or just that one? So I'll hit you. So we got Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children,
No.
The Boy and the Beast,
No.
and Mirai. I think that's the complete. Well, but so he did a Digimon movie as well. But have you seen the Digimon movie? I'm sure you have not. I'm gonna assume that about you.
I'm gonna never mind if I've seen the Digimon movie. I'm gonna replace all of my shelving with just copies of it on Blu-ray. No, I have not seen the Digimon movie.
Oh my god, Boku no War Game, I think, is the subtitle of that movie. But it was cool. It was sort of like the story of Summer Wars, but like a sort of light version put in the Digimon verse. Is an okay movie. Do you prefer Girl Who Leapt or Summer Wars?
It's not because I've not seen Summer Wars in a very long time, whereas Girl Who Leapt Through Time is more fresh in my memory. But I think, generally speaking, I am a sucker for time travel stories that are about, like the human question of, if I could do things differently, would I? That's what makes time travel interesting, rather than, the mystery box shit of, we've got all these paradoxes to unwrap to save the world. Like, whatever, I don't care. Give me interesting human drama, like in Erased, which you mentioned before.
Yes.
At least for the first 2/3 of that show.
Post your favorite Mamoru Hosoda movie in chat and tell me why it's Wolf Children. That's all I want from you. This individual also directed the Persona 5 stuff. Been getting a lot of the P5 like in these credits lately, I feel like.
I never watched that beyond maybe 2-3 episodes, but that's I don't know.
I'm trying to watch it to refresh my memory on the story.
Do you just feel your hand reflexively reaching towards your DS4 so you can play the game instead?
No, because it will take way more time to play the fucking game. But the game looks better than the anime. No question about that.
I think the thing that put me off that particular show was that I remember, I'm using the original P4 anime, not the golden version as the yardstick here, where they had some really interesting adaptational changes that you and I have discussed in the past. Like, they clearly thought out like what they should do differently to make it more interesting as a show, rather than when it existed as a game. And when I was watching P5, I think for the couple of episodes I saw of it, I was like, they're not doing that here. They're just basically doing a 1-for-1. I'm like, well, why do I care then? Because I'm just going to play the game instead. It doesn't feel like its own unique offering. It just feels like, more of the same. And like for some people, that's fine. Like if you're really into Persona 5 and you want to see them again in a different, medium, who am I to tell you otherwise? But I just kind of zoned out after a little bit.
I felt that way about the first Danganronpa anime adaptation. It's very much like here's the game. And that one, I would absolutely, I mean, the game is not super long, so I'd absolutely rather play the game because it's more visually interesting too. I'm glad Go-Go Atomic Robot is repping From the New World in chat. That's an anime that deserves to be repped. But let's talk about the head writer now, Takao Yoshioka. So Yoshioka-san, let's see. Is there anything I recognize? There's some stuff I don't recognize or haven't seen. I will say, when I sort of the last days of me going on to Crunchyroll on my phone, I would see a lot of ads for something called Blade Dance of the Elementalers. And
oh, good God.
I have no idea what that is, but the series composition.
I don't, but the name does not sound. There's something about names that are overly long like that just makes me think.
Oh my God! The fucking head. Holy shit!
Uh-oh.
Oh my God!
Dark. What have you found? Don't keep me in suspense here. Don't make me shake you by the shoulders, man. Tell me.
Okay. Yoshioka-san was the head writer for and wrote every single script of Elfen Lied. I kid you not. I wish I was making that up. Oh boy, and there's some other credits here, like a lot of High School DxD head writing. The Familiar of Zero was very popular. I've never seen it. That's there. I'm trying to see Ikitosen, the head writer. Man, there's like a type like this. Horimiya feels like outside this person's lane.
I can't wait for Horimiya.
Mezzo Forte.
Oh Jesus!
God, this.
No, I was gonna make an Elfen Lied related joke then, but now that you've revealed Mezzo Forte, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna keep on walking. I'm gonna pretend that I heard nothing. Like.
We got head writing credit for Queen's Blade 2: The Evil Eye. We got a script credit for Queen's Blade: Beautiful Warriors OAV, and the cherry on top, the scenario writer for Queen's Blade: The Exiled Virgin.
It sounds like a descent into anime hell.
This is really like
this is Dante's Inferno, layer by layer, going down.
Oh, and then wow, okay, yeah, and then some wrote some scripts for Letter B. The head writer for Watamote, are you fucking kidding me? Watamote is great. And and the head writer for Your Lie in April, which some people really, really like, and I know there's that feels like the little bit more of here's like a prestige romantic drama thing or whatever.
This poor person. I feel like I want to imagine there's a corollary life problem going on with all this stuff, where they I'm on top of the world, I'm gonna write some really cool anime, and then Elfen Lied oh shit, I've really got to keep the lights on.
I hope so, man. But then there's just so much. There's fucking Ikitosen and Queen's Blade and Mezzo Forte, all the writing. They're just hey, Yoshioka-san, we want to do a Schlockfest. Will you write our story? Yes, I will do it.
Yeah.
But look, and more power to you, Yoshioka-san, I suppose. But man, you've worked on some hot shit.
as long as Hori-san's hot cousin does not turn up at any point in this show, I will be immensely.
Yeah. As long as there's not what did Buggy tell us was in the manga? Isn't there an arc in the Elfen Lied manga about a girl who has to wear diapers or something?
No. I remembered it before you said it, and I tried to stop you. You could just leave it there.
Oh man, Senran Kagura writing credits. Oh,
Senran
boy,
Kagura's writing?
yeah, you'd be
Son
surprised.
bitch. There are
Yeah,
only
who
two
knew?
reasons, or multiples of two, that people pay attention to Senran Kagura.
Yes,
And that's not even me mocking
and
it,
that's
because you
great.
know
I
what?
mean, that's fine,
Senran Kagura
dude.
is unashamed of what it
It
is, but
is.
like,
It
when
is.
I think of Senran Kagura, like the first thing that's not pop into my mind is like the exemplary quality of its scripting.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say the same
Jesus
thing. I'd
Christ!
say the same thing for stuff like Ikitosen. Like people are, it's like, here is what I am. I am show where like hot ladies who got a little bit of muscle and can fight and are at like fit, like punch each other's clothes off, basically, sort of Akiba Strip style. Their clothing gets
Wow.
increasingly shredded as they fight each other in well animated fight scenes. So wow, we're spending a lot of time on this, but this CV was just walloped me over the head. But seriously though, like I feel like the same DNA. Well, not the same. That's not right. But like
There's no clothing damage in this.
I don't know. I could see a through line from like Your Lie in April and Watamote to this. Like I can see some similar kind of stuff going on. But
It sounds to me like, someone going through like the stages of addiction to drugs, like, while being a rock star. And like Horimiya is like the, first thing they release and it's coming clean.
exactly, that's a good point. So, okay, the first episode was directed by series director Ishiyama and written by Yoshioka. So we'll skip along and talk about. Oh, I did not. You know what? We've talked so much. Let's save some of these credits for another time because I did not pull all of them. Well, there's a lot of Yoshioka. No, I would have to pull too many more. I didn't actually end up pulling everybody that I should have. Oh, wait, I just need to pull one more person. It's no big deal. I can do that real quick. So we are going to talk about, just really briefly, the episode direction credits and scriptwriter credits. So episode 1, like I said, written and directed by the head people. But episode 2, You Wear More Than One Face, was directed by Yoshiko Okuda. And Okuda has been a key animator, prop designer, and an in-betweener on a whole bunch of things. Did the character design for Say I Love You. That's a cool thing. Animation director for the Saint Youngmin movie. That's cool. That's a cool thing. Some key animation for Samurai Champloo. So we have an OG here. Worked for Gonzo, doing some animation for Romeo X Juliet, one of the best things Gonzo ever did. And has worked on Orange, directing some animation. Did some key animation on like Paranoia Agent and the Pat Labor Wasted 13 movie.
Ooh.
Lots of cool stuff on the CV here. And the writer for episode 2 was Chiaki Nagai. And Nagai-san has gotten writing credits on, let's see, Fate Grand Order, Absolute Demonic Front, : oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Let me give you all the punctuation for this. Fate / Grand Order - Absolute Demonic Front : Babylonia - That's, yeah.
Can I just interlude here?
Of course, always.
Because I saw a trailer for another great fan order. What the hell? Like, I'm already slugging words. But maybe that speaks to the problem I've got here, which is there a need for the titles to be as long as they are? I mean, it just... Can you imagine, even trying to Google this stuff? Like, can we not just keep it short and simple?
What if they called it Fate Grand Order 1, 2, 3, 4?
No, they need to start changing the adjectives. So we've got Fate Grand Order, Fate Grander Order, Fate Grandest Order, Fate Grand Orderer. That's the Uber Eats episode.
Right. Fater than fate.
Mm-hmm. Too Fast, Too Fate. You know, too Fate.
Tokyo Drift, Fate Grand Order. Oh,
Too
boy.
Fate, Tuesday Night.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go. Tuesday night, of course. That's perfect. I think they should definitely adopt this strategy, or just keep everything the same, but put a number in there. You know, make it Fate Grand Order 7, Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia. Like, then you know where you stand. You know what I mean? But maybe they're not connected in that linear fashion. So, you know,
I mean, good luck asking someone to watch that film with you though. Like,
sure.
Hey, girl, would you like to watch Fate Grand Order, Absolute Babylonia, Demonic Front, Vanilla Schnapps, Peach ensemble thing?
Keep going. That's not their full title.
You
forgot the place.
And I mentioned Babylonia.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there is also an Absolute Demonic Front in there somewhere, but oh well. Not that it's fine. It's fine. They'll know what you're talking about. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, that fake."
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Of course, I'll come over and watch it with you.
You've got that admission from me on the pod there. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Okay, but aside from that, so we got Promise Neverland credits, scripts for episode 4, 5, and 9 of season 1 only, of course. Not this person's not involved in season 2. Good job. And other than that, like, I mean, some Grand Blue writing, some Idolmaster writing, you know, 7 Deadly Sins, popular shonen thing. Episode 3, directed by Ryo Kodama. And Kodama, again, appears to have a fuck ton of key animation credits. Wow, this is a massive... I should have looked at this beforehand. This is like the biggest CV since...
Pick a noticeable one. Pick one noticeable credit.
The biggest CV since Megumi Hayashibara. No. I will pick key animation for Sweet Boo Flowers, which is a Yuri thing that I enjoy. I've never actually seen the show, but I like the manga, so I picked that one. The one I haven't seen. A lot of Gundam in here. Hooray! Yeah, key animation for like Gundam 00, Gundam Age, Gundam Thunderbolt, which sucks, Gundam Unicorn, and Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Oh, some key animation for Monster. That show rules. That's a great show. You might want to read the comic instead. The pacing might feel better, but that story is awesome.
Is that also your opinion of The Promised Neverland?
Yes. My official Warui Deshou opinion. Definitely. Definitely. So, and
sorry, I
that's okay.
Couldn't resist sticking the knife in there.
And Yoshioka-san wrote the script, and then finally the director for episode. Oh, and episode 3 is called "That's Why It's Okay." It's a great title. And for Everybody Loves Somebody, directed by Akisa Shibata, and Shibata-san has a smaller CV, thank God. Directed episodes of Saikano. I don't know how many Saikanos there are. I thought there were only 2, but like maybe that's wrong. But 2 different Saikanos, Boring Girlfriend and Boring Girlfriend Flat. Squid Girl Production Advancement. I guess that's like the is it Horimiya in Shirobako? I think that's what that role is. Horimiya, obviously. Anything else we know? I like Dimension W, kind of. I thought that was fun. Oh, Big Wind Up, Season 2. Production advancement for that.
Nice.
And Akame Gai Kill, Episode 7 director, and I'm the only person alive that likes that show and will defend it. So there. And once again, Yoshioka-san wrote Episode 4. That was the overly lengthy creative segment. So we're 45 minutes in, and we have not answered a single patron question, but we have a lot of them, and we're going to get to it, and it's going to be great.
Cool. Well, no sign like the present then in that case. Let's get to it.
Let's roll.
So, First batch of questions here comes from Kate Rose. Some of these I'm actually going to stitch together into a single question where they're broadly on a similar thing. So, first question is: when you first started this show, what expectations did you have, and did your expectations change afterwards? I will take this first. I had two kinds of expectations for the show. One, I didn't want it to be shit. That was, I'm going in with the lowest of bars to clear here to start with. But on a more serious note, I mentioned this before when we were talking about like how we approach these shows. Using different tools, different standards, different criteria. Basically, from my understanding, it was going to be a romantic comedy, not entirely dissimilar from a show I watched from last season called Adachi and Shimamura, which I got to the end of that only the other day, and I thought, wow, nothing happened.
Oh no, you didn't like it.
It was fine, but I feel like my time could have been better spent. Okay. And that indeed is something I'm going to talk about, funnily enough, in Horimiya. Not that I think that Horimiya is wasting my time, but rather just a thing that I want to see happen at some point. Discuss where I want to see the show go next. But rather, I wanted to, have a good chuckle at it here and there, and also like feel again those warm feelings inside, like where you feel affirmed by what you see, like you feel like an emotional reaction to how the characters are getting along, the budding nature of the relationship, that kind of thing, and my expectations really did not change after that fact. So I thought, well, I'm going in strong on this one. Don't suck. Make me care. Make me laugh. There you go.
Fair enough. I had like decent expectations because I read about. I don't just go into these things blind, Shadon. Never. Why would you do that? Why would you expose yourself to risk?
Because it's fun.
So I read the ANN preview guide reviews, and as I do every season, and the show got pretty glowing reviews and it got me to watch. And yeah, I mean, and of course they mentioned, I think I'm going to talk so much good about this show, but there are like 2 minutes at the very beginning where you're like, oh shit. What the fuck is this going to be?
I know exactly what you're referring to, and here's the crazy thing. I am going to defend that, but when I say that, I'm going to defend it in terms of if it had been used differently, this could be a thing. Because it's going to actually tie into a kind of broader criticism, and I'm putting quote marks around it because maybe it's not fair for me to criticize the show about it. It's not intending to. Basically, it's something I want to see it do, but it's not doing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because it might not be wanting to do that, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But I know exactly which 2 minutes you're referring to because as currently is in the show, though, if I take my defense away from that moment, then I am in agreement. I'm like, why the fuck is this here? It's like 120 seconds of value-free, linear images of happening where something is said that's really stupid. In fact, no, I'll point it out now. We might as well. We're in spoiler territory. Yeah. Where Hori recounts one of the teachers, creepy teachers, saying, you go, Hori, flat-chested girls are great. And I'm like,
I'm into that. Specifically, he says. He's like, don't feel so down on yourself because I like, DFC's thumbs up. And then he walks off.
And the thing is, right, okay. I've said before, I'll get into this now very briefly, which is, I've said before, we can have characters do stupid, reprehensible shit if there's a narrative purpose to it. But Hori doesn't even have, body issues or anything about herself.
No. She has different kind of self-esteem issues, but not those ones, yeah.
Yeah. This, ostensibly, is meant to be some sort of joke, but I'm very sorry to say, it ain't funny.
No, that was a
kind of fucking creep.
It was a big old miss.
No, you don't. Maybe admittedly the teacher was possessed by the reincarnated spirits of a guy who got killed in a car accident who was actually a creeper.
Thankfully, he's not shown up since. But
yay.
I'm sure they'll bring his ass back. So J Sword Rackham, Yoshioka, well, so he's the head writer for all of it, so he's supervising all the writing, but he wrote the script for it. Yeah, episodes 1, 3, and 4. So, we got to take the good with the bad, I guess. Like that, we could be like, what the fuck were you doing? But then I feel like all the rest of it, so good. So good. I'm going to gush about this show.
Yeah, it's such an aberration in that moment. I do not understand it.
I know.
But anyway,
very weird.
You were saying about your expectations, though, Doug.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was expecting a well written, nice looking rom-com and something that would hold my attention and have something to it. And I've been like, I think the show's over delivered on those expectations. I mean, I am. As longtime listeners, you're gonna be like, "Oh, great! Here's Doc." We heard Doc do this in Jeweler Richard and in Given and yesterday. Maybe not yesterday. I don't know if I was so kind of bullish from the beginning about that show, or maybe ever, because I think this is certainly better than that right now. But man, I'm in love with this, dude. This is it really, really good. I think it's totally over delivered on what I thought it was gonna be, from both like the pure sort of pulpy page turner side of things, where you're like, are they gonna get together? Are they gonna get together? Oh, I'm turning the pages to see. And then also like cinematically, there's a lot going on. These characters have some texture to them. Like their kind of backstories are being slowly hinted at and explored. It's just, it's so good, man. It's funny. It's really funny. I did not expect to laugh at it, I'll tell you that, but I laughed out loud during the rewatch. I fucking knew it was coming. Just laughed at the faces and some of the lines. Like, fucking in episode 3, there's a part that kills me. I mean, if I watched it again, I would laugh at it. It was when, Hori asks Ishikawa and Miyamoto, where have you been? Because we were going to do our project over lunch. What have you been up to? And just dead ass fucking Ishikawa just goes, we were on the rooftop reaffirming our friendship. What the hell? Who says that shit? My. So good, man. Hilarious. Really good writing.
Some of the humor between the two main lads, which is Ishikawa and Miyamura, like what it also does as well, I think works for this show, is that it mocks like the inherent absurdity of like male on male or cishet male on cishet male interactions. Like where it's all about like, like we can't talk openly about our emotions. That's weird and strange and girly, right. But
toxic masculinity, right?
That old Chester. But it mocks that. It's like, dude, like, stop making me say weird things, and like it's just, it plays on the inherent absurdity of it, which does work in my opinion.
I say Miyamoto? Because I meant Miyamura. I thought I said Miyamura, but my fault, Kate. We're gonna, you know us by now. We're the serial mispronouncers of names, even though we definitely, absolutely, 100% know them. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with Jack here. We just keep getting them wrong. Unfortunately, it just happens a lot.
Yep.
Sorry, Jack. Anyway, next question. What were your first impressions of Horimiya-san? Oh, it's Horimiya-san. What the fuck am I talking? That's me definitely mispronouncing. Hori-san and miyamoto-kun. There we go. How did that change as the show progressed? Well, I think that in the case of Hori, like she was pretty much exact like as I thought, which was. She's like, the good-looking, like, high school girl. Like, it didn't stick out to me all that much, but I'm not saying that needs to happen, of course. I mean, there's obviously good bands that happens as time goes on. And there's a lot, like, this late, like, we get to see, like, she's not, like, exactly, like, she gets embarrassed very easily. She reminded me a lot, actually, of Morioka from MMO Junkie, where easily flustered.
Yeah.
Definitely a couple of moments like that. As for Miyamura,
loves horror movies also.
Yes, really she does funny. Actually, and she's very sinister with them as well. Like when she just folds them out like cards.
Just like the set is called like Horror Stories 49: It could happen to you.
Let's play a game.
Poor Miyamura. Or fuck, I did it again. I definitely did it that time. Poor Miyamura.
You need a jar. The Miyamoto jar. You start putting. Like,
I did it. I obviously did it. I don't know if Kate has now subconsciously pushed me to do it, or I was doing it all along, but I did. That's definitely now a thing.
Kate's going to reduce her Patreon pledge by a quarter every time you mispronounce his name.
No.
Anyway. For him, I like what they're doing with him, but at the same time, this is gonna get into something I'm gonna talk about later. Part of me thinks they could be doing more. I feel like this show could be doing a lot more heavy lifting with stuff. But again, I have to stress though, like my reaction to this is one of I would like it to do this, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily right for the material, you know. But you know, he certainly as presented. Like certainly didn't think for a start that he was going to be as hard a man as he was. Like this guy is prone to violence, which took me by surprise. I mean, characters designed like him who look like his build, for example. I don't think that they're going to like be the ones like headbutting people, for example, which certainly took me by surprise. Or you know, laying out like if I like on paper, if I was to take Ishikawa and Miyamura and put them like on a page, and I was like, all right, place your bets, who will win the fight? And like without any prior context, I'd be like, well, it's gonna be Ishikawa, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, this guy's out straight out of Revenge of the Nerds. You know, he's he's gonna lose. But it turns out he's actually quite tough.
Would it change though if like before the fight Miyamura slowly like strips down and then you see all the tattoos, then you'd be like put it all on Megane there.
You could be right there. And then, of course, we learn, you know, that despite all of his, like, you know, toughness and all that, that he still has a side of him where he's very awkward. He's scared of horror movies. Like, there's texture and complexity to him. He's not a one-note character. But I do feel there's a certain element of his character design that I really wish the show did more with. And I think this is something one of our questions later will address.
Interesting.
But I'm gonna save that for when we get to it.
I sort of enjoy the lighter touch that they're doing. I think that they're striking a good balance between, you know, giving us like good comedy, like charming us, like helping us warm up to the whole cast of characters, and also breadcrumbing and giving us little tidbits of Miyamura for sure, and then especially in the latest episode, Hori as well. So I guess, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think for me personally, I think that they're hitting, that they've got their thumb on the scale in just the right way for the tone. I really, really like where it's going. And man, that fucking headbutt, dude, that was like a fuck yes, jump out of my couch moment.
Man, I was only in last week's One Drag Priority episode was I discussing about how I've like, you know, had to occasionally engage in violence in a school setting. And if you think I'm going to be a hypocrite, like I mean, this is going to be a question for later. But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, that's fucking street justice right there. Just not on a street, as it turns out.
Fuck you, Sengoku. I hate you.
Gaslighting prick,
dude. Yeah. God.
Oh man, we'll get to him. Okay. We'll talk.
Yeah, we definitely will. Worst hair in the show, straight up.
Oh my god. We'll get to the fucking ginger turnip that he is later. But yeah, do you have anything else to add about your impressions of Hori-san and Miyamura?
Oh, I mean, I think I just sort of was along for the ride, and they were what the show wanted them to be. You know, I think the show is very straightforward. Of like, here's a gloomy dude. You know, he's a shy boy. And then, you know, the whole point well, not the whole point, but I guess a big part of what the show is trying to do is be like, man, human beings will surprise you if you take the time to talk to them and get to know them.
I mean, Sengoku was certainly surprised.
Yeah, no, like stereotyping sucks because, like, you know, people are going to be this like unclassifiable in terms of neat and tidy boxes, these set of beings that are just awesome and like fun and great to get to know. And, you know, yeah, it shifted with how the show presented them. And now, you know, he's just like, he's an awkward guy, but he's, you know, I think he's incredibly kind and sweet, very straightforward.
He's a good boy.
Like
I said, this is good. Yeah, this is Good Boy 78.7.
Totally.
You know,
yeah. Tuning in to Good Boy Radio.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's like it's straightforward. I think almost to a fault because I think that's where his like little outbursts come from. Because like, you know, with Hori, he is able to just say things where she goes, how could you say that with a straight face? That's so cringy. She's like the first person in a while that he's been able to like honestly talk to and that would listen to him express himself. Whereas like I think shit like when he got into a fight with Ishikawa and when he headbutted, this getting into a question later, but like when he headbutted Sengoku, like, I mean, I think it's just like he just doesn't really have that much of it. Like he just expresses himself and like he hasn't really had a lot of experience doing that, but like that was a big emotion. And so he just needed to do it. He was so pissed. Mm-hmm. He tells everyone, I did that because I was pissed at you. It's so good.
Yeah. Scary dude, but all right, next question. This again is from Kate. How is this show different from other rom-com slice of life shows you've seen previously? So I suppose I need to lay out my credentials on this one of which, of course, is MMO Junkie, of which I think this probably bears the most similarity to. I've also recently finished Kaguya-sama Love is War Seasons 1 and 2, which I really enjoyed, actually.
That show is so good.
It's a show, to give you my very short review here, where some of the actual skits in it are really, really fucking lame when you get down to it. We're going to blow up a balloon over and over. It's going to be a game where everyone's like panicking. I'm like, what is this lame shit? This isn't even worthy for SNL. But the animation and direction and storyboarding of that show go so hard that it makes it work. And of course, it has that show's own version of the Kanamori breakout character in Chika Fujiwara, who is amazing.
Fujiwara is so good. Or is it Fujihara or Fujiwara?
Fujiwara.
Yeah.
Kate's dropping her Patreon pledge as we say this, of course.
I only remembered because there's a famous wrestling move named after him, the Fujiwara armbar. It's like, there's a mnemonic device I can use.
Yeah. And then, of course, we mentioned MMO Junkie. We've also mentioned Given, which I wouldn't actually call a rom-com. I would call it a slice of life romance, to be honest.
I guess. Think that, but there's rom and com.
There is com in it, but I don't think that's the primary goal of it, if I'm quite honest. It doesn't feel like it's me, but maybe if I should go back and have a look at it.
I think that's fair, though. You're right. I think you're right. The com nor the rom is like, maybe slice of life is the right way to classify that.
Yeah.
It's a show about a band.
That's true. All this dancing around with mentioning these shows, though, misses the core idea, which is that there are various, like, I think when you're writing this sort of stuff, various knobs and dials, if you want to call them that you can use to adjust the level of something. So, in like Given, for example, there is com, as you say, there's a very tiny amount of it. Not even a tiny amount, but there's a small amount.
Yeah.
There is slice of life, of which there is a moderate amount. There is also tragedy, of which there is a certain amount. You can see like how there's different levels of stuff. You could chart the shit out if you felt so inclined. Kaguya-sama is, for the most part, all comedy. Like, that's where the dial on that is turned up to.
Totally.
There is some genuine emotional moments. Like, there's actually a subplot involving, it might very well be also named Ishikawa, the nerdy kid in the student council. I can't remember his name offhand. Yeah.
Right.
Which is not too far removed, actually, from what happens to Miyamura. Like, at least in terms of like ostracization at a younger age, leading to how he feels currently. So there's a bit of drama, but that one is mostly dialed upon the comedy. MMO Junkie, mostly comedy, but also more slice of life. Not so much on any of the tragic elements. Like, in fact, that was my complaint about MMO Junkie, that some of the tragic elements that should have been brought up in it were downplayed. Like, why is Mori-Mori-chan, in such a situation? What caused her to quit a job? Fucking find out. What happens to her after the show concludes because she still doesn't have a job? We don't find out. It's immaterial, and I feel like that's wasted. So, if you're going to make comparisons between this and other shows, you kind of need to have a think on what is this show setting out to accomplish in terms of what it wants to, do in all these various areas, and is it like optimized for lack of a better term, for meeting that? And I think that this one is slice of life, mostly with, I'd say more so than comedy. Because I think in part the direction tells me that, like, Kaguya-sama, like, as a comparison point, the direction really helps sell the comedy in that. Whereas there are comedic moments, so you've got like little chibi faces and stuff like that. You've got some other music moments with her. I can't remember the other girl's name, the one who's got her like long sleeves, where like she starts chuckling to herself, when
Oh yeah, yeah,
Hori's
yeah,
He's like,
yeah. That's her like moment.
That's a great moment.
Or is it who something? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
something
so
like that.
good, man.
It's
Well, I
great.
can't remember her name though. I wish.
Big
Yeah,
Stu
type it.
Genji from her. But like I think it's mostly slice of life. I think then it's probably evenly divided between actual drama and comedy, I would say. But I think slice of life in itself is a thing you can have. Where it's
dramedy.
just dramedy. Yes, we'll call it that. And in that case, I think it's so far succeeding. But I feel like there's room for expansion for it to do more with the material it's got. But again, I have to
Yeah.
stress, like I've said, what I'm going to talk about later with respect to this is my personal disappointment, quote unquote, with it. I won't even, because I mean that means I don't like it. I do like Horimiya quite a lot, but that's just me. And again, if the show's saying out to do a very specific thing, it's not fair for me to say, "Well, I didn't do this." I mean, I didn't. There's a reason that Berserk doesn't have comedy in it, for example. Not really, even though it comes in fits and spurts here and there in the Golden Age. But I'm not expecting it to suddenly also turn into a musical. Like if I complained, "Oh, I wish I had a musical element," so you'd be within your right to say, "Well, what the fuck are you thinking? Like it's not meant to be a musical, you idiot."
Griffith just doing when you're a jet, you're a jet all the way. It'll be bad. That'll probably be for the fucking core. Was it Korska? Who was the annoying guy? With the black hair, who was always like, "Guts, you suck. You're the worst." Even though everyone else is like, "You're the man, dude." I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, that doesn't fucking matter. So the question was, how does this compare to other similar shows? I mean, I feel like I haven't really seen enough of them to be like, oh, this is sort of structurally like this or that show. So I will just say, like, in terms of, I guess, the feelings, like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I felt quite as strongly about a rom-com in a while, like just a straightforward rom-com. Especially, I mean, because we haven't covered a ton of them. I think I would have to go all the way back to like whenever I watched like Golden Time and Toradora. And obviously these shows are not structurally similar to that, but that's where I remember feeling so invested in the characters and the romance. So yeah, I like this a whole bunch.
Fair enough then. Next question from Kate is, was this show on your radar before it aired? Why or why not?
No.
The truth is, I do not pay attention
Me
really
neither.
to what's coming out. I kind of just find out and then just, as you say, Doc, going blind. I had at least some notion from what people had like said that it was good or was reasonable, but I otherwise just kind of went into it completely cold. And in part, I think I'm gonna have to say, like, as much as I like the character designs and such, like, there's nothing that really sticks out or strikes me as like setting it apart from other things of its ilk, if you know what I mean. That's not a complaint, I don't like. It just looked from the outside very standard.
I can see that. Like if you look at the key art, you're like, oh, great, it's another one of
I mean,
these.
I mean, on Funimation, for example, like you have, of course, the paint, like, or the poster, or whatever you call it, for the show, and it's just all the characters on there, like with their faces, and this. I'm like, this doesn't tell me anything about
it's the Brady Bunch, rip off like poster.
It's,
yeah,
it's a Guess Who board. I'm like,
Horimiya squares.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a fault of advertising rather than the show proper. Let's be fair here.
Yeah, I don't take a lot of time to like research beforehand, like what's coming out, because I feel like that's just a road to disappointment. Like you invest in something and then you watch episode 1.
I promised Neverland season 2.
And you're just like, fuck, this wasn't.
I mean, if you've read the manga, that counts as research, all right. I'm so sorry.
But like, you're like, oh man, this is by like that character designer and that one writer. Like it might be cool. There's like a handful of people, your Ikuharas, your I can't remember the name. The Mob Psycho writer director team. if Hiroshi Seko, the writer of that, is
Ryan
writing
Saru.
something.
If Saru's
If Masaki Yuasa is on,
I'm absolutely paying attention to that.
Yeah, stuff like that, like really huge kind of names. Then I'm like, okay, like I'll watch this without reading if it's good or bad or whatever. But otherwise, I just rely on like seasonal guides from a couple of websites to sort of steer me in the direction of what are the good premieres. And like I miss some stuff that way, but I also feel like I managed to catch most of the quality stuff.
Mm-hmm. Next question is, in terms of animation and direction, what are this show's strong points and where do you think it's weak? I'm going to be honest here. I don't think any of it is bad, but I don't think a lot of it really stuck out to me either.
So I really like I think there's sort of like a sheen of polish over the characters in the show in general.
It looks good, don't get me wrong. It looks
really pretty, and it animates well, But so I mentioned this earlier. I think there's some cinematic stuff going on that I think is cool, and that so there are, the staging of the shots I think is always really good in terms of like how the characters are spaced and how they're relating to each other. But I really like, and you get these shots in episode 1, and I think throughout there's at least one in almost every other episode, but they're these shots when Miyamoto and Hori are talking and the background kind of goes white and fluffy, and their shadows are colorful, and the shadows will move around them. And I think the way that I read this was, and it was because of the first lines rather, that they spoke when those scenes were happening. It was when, Miyamura was like, I really like that, like that I am the only person in our school that gets to see you like this, because
great line.
It's like this moment was made for you and me, and that sort of the way I read whenever this happens is like the two of them are having a moment that almost exists outside of time, like kind of an eternal moment that they'll remember forever and ever. And because the shadow moving around to me is like, it's like time is passing in the background around them. Like it's obviously still passing in a sense, right? Because I mean, we are these physical beings that exist in this world where time moves forward, or what even is time? But like, but they're sort of removed from that, and that moment will always kind of be what it is forever, regardless of the march of time. So that's how I read that, and I thought that the visual language happening there was so kind of beautiful, and I love the way that they did that, and it seemed really clear to me that that was what was going on. So like, in terms of direction, that move I love. I think that's just boss.
I admit maybe I'd overlooked that. I think you could also read that possibly also as a true colors kind of thing. Quite literally even, maybe, get to see this more colorful side of someone that might be contrary to their outer nature as they present themselves, which indeed is a running theme of this show, which is, and indeed is exemplified in that line, which I really, really like, by the way, which is I get to see a side of you no one else does, and indeed one of the episodes is something called like Your True Face, or whatever it is, something like that. I remember the title of something that was like that.
You wear more than one face as episode 2.
That's the one. Yeah. There we go. And in all honesty, like, I'll admit maybe I missed stuff on here, but I think that it just didn't strike me all that much.
That's fine. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't hit you.
But that by no means does that make it bad, though. It was likable enough. It was certainly colourful. Like the chibi faces when they were used, like the big blobby faces, were used appropriately.
So like, good.
They weren't excessive. They were used well. It works. It's good. It's not anything that sticks out to me beyond maybe what your very solid interpretation there of that particular moment. But no, it does the trick. It works.
The chibi faces, and then like there's one time where like Hori it becomes a no face. She's like, everything is normal except every feature is removed from her face, and she leans into the table.
Can I bow though? We of course need to talk about the egg scene.
It's egg time. This is gonna be very
Yeah.
confusing. What's it starting wondering?
No,
Oh,
no, there's nothing confusing about it all. Me and Muro just wanted to get home to watch the latest Wonder Egg Priority. There you go.
there you go. I will say
Yeah.
another visual, another little touch upon rewatching was when so it's in episode 1 again, and it's after uh, Miyamura has been at her house, and then sort of they start doing this thing where I can't remember exactly, but it's like you think she's reminiscing and remembering how she used to think of Miyamura or how other people used to think of him or how conversations they've had, and he's framed by these dark clouds, and it shows him kind of laying his head on his desk surrounded by the dark clouds. But then Hori steps into the shot, and those clouds kind of go away, and the kind of normal colors return, and it's like, no, this is the present. She's really thinking about this now. I thought it was just a really nice transition.
There's
There's some
something
cool
else I'll
stuff
bring
like
up that
that.
actually did strike me, which was there is the group activity scene where Miyamura has historically
Episode
been left out of
3.
group activities, um, which I'll discuss later.
Yeah, that's a big moment.
But I love how, like, when they're putting all of the desks together to start talking about chemical reactions, which I'm fairly certain that he and Hori could talk a lot about, that all of the desks being put together look like puzzle pieces coming together. It
Yep.
works, especially because of the overhead view of it as well.
Man, that scene fucking God. Look, we talked about with Wonder Egg and with other shows before, like, oh, we kind of see our younger selves in this, like, sort of more the tragic elements of our adolescence and young adulthood. But I really felt that here, which is why I was very like pleasantly surprised to find that not only did this writer write Elfin Lied, that garbage, but it was an adaptation, of course, but also wrote Watamote, which I really saw myself in, my younger self, and I feel that to a certain degree with Miyamura here because, my later high school experience, and he's a senior, so like I had some friends, but I also remember struggling with a lot of like the self-doubt he has and the self-esteem issues. Like, are these people really friends with me? Like, are they just being nice to
Oh
me?
man.
Like, do I really belong? Like, I didn't really feel that sense of belonging with a group of people until I got to university. And then, of course, when I got married. And then this
I
show speaks to me about married life in some ways as well. But yeah, like
yeah,
Miyamura's
man.
like high school, like and middle school, like that transition. Like there's just so much there that I want to talk about. But you go ahead.
No, I feel like I should leave Flair when we get to that because that's something I still struggle with even to this day.
I get
I
that.
exist. I exist in circles of friends, for example, where our tastes do not really overlap. Like, I'll talk, for example, to people I've known since high school about, "Hey, I like anime," and like, I'll try not to bring up the more eclectic stuff, shall we say?
Yeah.
Like, I once tried, like, in the middle of the pandemic, when we could still go to pubs briefly during the downtime before everything went completely to shit again. I actually was in a pub with a couple of friends that I've known since high school, and they're not into anime, whatever. Never have been, never will be. And so I tried to explain Showa Rako Shinjo to them because I thought, as far as the topic goes, as far as subject matter is concerned, that's strictly more of a historical biopic kind of thing. That could be interesting. That could be a way of not making them like anime so much as to make it understandable from my perspective, like why I delve into this medium. And they just kind of looked at me like I was going science speak Simlish or something.
Yeah.
And you know what? Fair play to them. But I have asked that question many times. Like, I travel a lot of different social circles, some of which I, feel like I exist in better than others. Friends I've known for decades, I'm like, do I belong here? Like, I don't like a lot of the same stuff they do, but, well, I do belong there because we have a core understanding and a core connection that goes beyond simply liking all of the same things all the time. Like we're better for our differences than not. But it's still something I struggle with every now and again. And that to me is like one of the key things I think the show really got me about. And it also, again, speaks like how, again, you said we talked about Wonder Woman Priority about like there is a certain universality to experiences regardless of age.
Mm-hmm.
Context obviously changes dramatically. Like, I'm not in high school anymore, but there are certain elements of, like forming relationships, all that sort of stuff, like also, dealing with where you belong in a social circle that still are relevant even as an adult. And that's why I think we ultimately consume these shows, even though we are nowhere near close to being in the same age, location, you name it, as the characters in the show, because their experiences still speak to us.
No, I'm like Akira from Suritama. I make my class introduction. I'm 36 years old. I look forward to get along well with you this year. Actually, 37 now, but
well, I'm Steve Buscemi. How do you do, fellow kids?
Exactly. Yes. Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, yeah, I think you hit it dead on, and we'll get into more details on all this because I think we probably both have some points to make about this aspect.
Oh boy.
Of the show.
I do too. Just as much as Miyamura has points to make. It is here with a rusty fucking safety pin. That's not sanitary. Jesus
we
Christ.
We need to get Grizzly because like he was like, oh yeah, that's like me and all my friends did that. And I was just like, what? That's like a thing?
Oh, man. Okay, next question from Kate. Do you think Hori-san is emotionally immature, or is it that Miyamura-kun is somehow better able to communicate more clearly and maturely? I need to put a bone of contention about this show out there in order to answer this question, which is part of my problem is I don't think we get a strong enough sense of who Hori is prior to her starting to interact with Miyamura, because I think the answer to this question is that she's not emotionally immature, more that Miyamura puts her off guard. There are many different faces to people, and she's not having to show one to him or rather wants to show one to him that she's never really shown anyone else. But the problem with that is we need a strong sense of contrast to who she is as a regular person. And this ties into my complaint also that I'm going to get to later about Miyamura's depiction as an alternative kid, quote unquote.
Okay.
In that, like, to me, visually, Hori just seems like, your regular, like, class president kind of girl, who I'll go with that. Like, but I don't have a strong enough sense of who she is prior to her starting this relationship, not even like in terms of romantic, but just like friendship, whatever you call it, with Miyamura, that the contrast doesn't work for me, therefore. Like, so it's hard for me to even say like what her baseline is really, especially in like wider society. I feel like we should have had more time with that, but I don't know how I'd have done that, admittedly.
Yeah. I think you can just take like a cardboard cutout, whatever you're thinking. Like, I think it even works when you take in your brain stereotypical high school girl and contrast the image we get of Hori with Miyamura at home with that, and just like, wow. And I think we get to see a little bit here and there of like of the kind of person that she is in school, like kind of independent of all that. But like, yeah, I think you could just do that and have a sufficiently like a working contrast. But I understand your complaint, despite not sharing it.
Yeah, I think it just would have been better to have her feel more distinct, because I feel like she's almost a kind of like, at least as presented in how she acts in school, as a bit generic.
Oh man, I hard disagree. I feel like I really know her, but maybe that's because I know her at home.
That's why I'm talking strictly in terms of school here. Very like regular sort of thing, and that in itself can be an intentional part of the show if it is brought into sharp contrast with home. But that's where I said before, like, I feel like the show could be doing more heavy lifting, and it's not.
I guess.
But that's not be the point of the show, so...
Well, we know she's a popular girl, and that, she's well-liked, because boys from other schools want her phone number. Like you said, she makes straight A. She's hardworking. She has a lot of friends. She's always talking to different girls outside of her friend group. She always can't do things with them because she has to take care of her brother. So she is kind of, in addition to being a good grades person, always probably given an air of responsibility. That's why the student council leans on her to do things. So, I mean, I think that there's a characterization there that doesn't feel generic to me. But again, like it's hard for me to like separate the two Horis. I don't even want to do that, right? Because they're the same
Mm-hmm.
person. Because like I feel like the thing. It's funny, like the pink pigtailed haired lady is like,
Oh,
oh, you're
oh my
nothing.
god.
She's the worst, but she's like, you're, Miyamura and Hori are a bad match. They're nothing like each other. But it's like, actually, little do you know, like,
Little do you know,
they
God,
are these people that like just sort of are who they are to a certain degree without, like, they kind of don't care about like typical high school boy and girl taboos and boundaries in terms of social. Like, Hori has enough social capital to like go and talk to Miyamura without suffering any kind of irreparable reputational damage. And Miyamura, like, he starts making friends and stuff like that, but he's like, I don't know, he's just like his weird, awkward self. I feel like that's a big thing that they have in common is that, like, I mean, they do have these selves that only each other see, but also I think at school, I don't know, they don't really put on airs, you know what I mean? They're not really concerned with like climbing the social ladder or, fucking achieving all there is to achieve. Like, they just seem very relatable.
They're not interested in revolutionizing the world and breaking the shell of the egg,
Exactly. Or like going to Koshin to play in the high school World Series, or like getting into a good college, even though Hori probably will. Yeah, I don't know.
Miyamura, he's fucked. He's fucked. He ain't going to college.
He's gonna be working at that convenience store with what's his face from the Crow Girl
Oh
show.
shit! You're 100% right. Fucking
He's gonna
hell.
be like, Hori brings home the bacon. I just
damn
work
it.
at this part-time gig and take care of our child.
Man. Yeah, I'll elaborate on more on that later, but I do hear where you're coming from, though. To be fair, Doc. All right, next question. What do you make of Hori and Miyamura being portrayed as parents / parental figures to her little brother Sota?
It's so good.
I don't like. I think it's cool. The interesting thing is that Sota actually serves as the door opener for her to like see the other side of Miyamura, because like
Thank God.
We of course learn throughout the show thus far that Miyamura,
Japanese
like,
hot
even even before like he even before he like started styling himself the way he does, he was still ostracized for no real reason, and that's not a fault of the show or bad writing. That's actually very deliberate, because let's be honest here, bullying,
It's real. Yeah.
it's real, and oftentimes it doesn't rely on a certain amount of logic, or whatever. Sometimes people are just cruel. I mean, we talked about some Wonder Egg, like where
Kids suck.
there are factors behind it, like you come from an abusive household and all that. But sometimes, like, and particularly for the person who's being bullied, what ultimately the function of the bully, like, or rather the backstory of the bully is, what he's doing is immaterial beyond the actual material, the effects it has on them. So, yeah, I think it's neat that Sota sees him in a different way, because he treats him just like as really, like, he sees him as cool, like, his alternative style to him is like neat and interesting, and then that opens as the foot in the door kind of thing for Hori to meet him as a person and get to like him for who he is.
Imagine if he didn't reach out and grab Miyamura's shirt, because he was leaving.
Yeah,
he was like, well, your little bro's good, so I'm gonna see myself out. And he could have just walked out of her life forever. But no, like, Sota grabs the shirt, and then Hori says, like, no, you need to come in and have something to eat or whatever. So could have all changed.
What I would be curious about, though, is from my perspective, as far as Sota is concerned, his function in the show is not to be his own character. He's one of those, I've said before, where he exists to advance the plot for someone else. In this case, it's Hori specifically, with a little Miyamura thrown in. But I wondered to myself, like, if maybe they might want to expand on that later, where he grows out of liking Miyamura, because, like, he's growing up, like, and he's like, you were cool, I don't care about you anymore, whatever. Now, that could be something to see, like, like where now Hori has to find a justification for Miyamura to come visit, like, they might put pressure on them to advance things. There's potential to be made here to use him differently, but functionally, he's just there at the moment to have served as the foot in the door.
That is years down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think, like, yeah, like you said, so foot in the door. So I think one of the big things that Hori finds attractive about Miyamura, apart from the obvious, is that like his nurturing side, and she immediately kind of gets that with how he sort of takes care of and it becomes like a big brother figure to Sota. And I think she's really into that because it's something that she never got. And we see in episode 4, the last time she had a fever, her mom couldn't stay and take care of her. Her mom had to like leave and say, "You're always so good at toughing these things out. You'll be okay. Like mommy just can't stay. Mommy has to go." And
what's funny?
Like real quick, and then of course we see in that episode Miyamura take care of her then. But yeah, no, I think that again plays like a big part of it, and no one knows that, so people don't understand why they're a good match. Yes, what is funny?
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, that whole thing with her having a fever and not having her mother be around, I'm gonna put a pin in that for later, because we were talking before about the universality of experiences, and this show actually makes very good arguments for that, for its own characters, by highlighting like how they were when they were younger versus when they are when they're older, and how they treat the same situation differently because of how they've grown up, how they've emotionally matured, what they are now capable of feeling. And I think that's a really, really powerful element of this show that, to me, is probably its greatest asset. But I'll get to that later. Anyway, next question. Building on the previous question regarding parental roles, in episode 4, we see Hori has been put in a position unable to rely on her parents when she is sick or for any other reason except to provide money for living expenses as they're always working. What do you think of this situation Hori is in, and how do you think it's affected her character? I think it's probably one of those things, to be honest, where it's just simply that she's become very capable and dependable, and indeed that ties into her doing the student council stuff. I think that you could pull a through line from that to that.
Yep. Overworking, not thinking about her own well-being,
And in turn, has left her closed off to relaxing a little bit, taking things a little easier,
relying on people.
more self-care, relying on people, which is ironic. Which is ironic given that Miyamura is the one who has the more explicit "I can't rely on anyone because people treat me like shit" backstory. I think I mean, like, as far as how much it's going to affect her character, I think we probably might want to have a little bit more of that develops over time, because what we get in the flashbacks, it works for the moment, but I want it to be more substantive.
I think it will. I think Miyamura has gotten the lion's share of that stuff in the first 3 episodes, and then we're only on 4. So I would expect us to get more over the next few episodes on Hori specifically, if I had to guess.
Cool.
Okay, so can you repeat the question in episode 4? How do I think that stuff affected her?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it affected her profoundly. I think it's like, I think we're meant to see that scene and infer a lot about her life from that. Like, she's always had to be the strong one. She's had to be the second mom to Sota. I mean, we see the fact that, like, in that first episode, she's walking her brother home because she can't go to karaoke. And then she hears the girls walking the other way, like, "Oh, karaoke, I love it. It's going to be so cool. Can you come on?" And she looks at them in a way that, like, there's sort of an ambiguity there where you wonder if she's thinking, "God, I wish that were me," or you're thinking, or if she's thinking, like, sort of just realizing that she's different and not not having like a tinge of regret. I don't know, maybe both, but yeah, like, her life has been one of like self-reliance and not getting to like be the one that's just crying on someone else's shoulder. She has always had to take care of people, and that's just kind of, that scene encapsulates that, I think. And so I think that's the deal, and I think it's a really emblematic of what we're supposed to think of her childhood.
Yep, I I agree 100%. Next question then is, aside from Hori and Miyamura, there are a lot of other relationships happening around them. Do you think the show is balancing and presenting these other relationships well or badly? Does that detract from the main couple or adds them? The only one I picks up from this, to be quite honest, is what I think, and I say I think because there's no conclusive evidence yet, is a budding interest between Ishikawa
and Miyamura.
That's the secret ending.
That's right, the secret shit.
But Ishikawa and the green-haired girl, who I think her name is Sakura, I have a feeling that they might potentially go somewhere.
I hope so.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? The show is named Horimiya, so it is, of course, going to be about Hori and Miya. Makes perfect sense to me.
Sure.
But that being said, like, they don't exist in a vacuum. Indeed, the episode 1 makes it clear, like with Ishikawa's crush on Hori, that there are implications to that. And I think that it's reasonable and actually quite good that the show is willing to go through him dealing with that. Now, granted, it's not heavily emotional. It's not like crushed inside, like, oh God, won't it be the puppy? That kind of thing.
I love it. He does play that up for comedy, though. When she's,
he does play it for comedy.
When she's trying to ask his name, like Miyamura's first name. And he's like, I have to ask you a question. And he's like, oh? It's like, it's about Miyamura. And he's like, my broken heart is still bleeding. Why? And like runs away. It's so good.
With the tears as well that look really fishy for some reason.
Yes.
It's amazing. Oh my God. It reminded me of all things like of Madoka Magica when I can't remember her name, it was like, girls can't take girl, like that kind of thing. Like, and just runs away in hysterics. But anyway, so him, if they go somewhere, and maybe they don't even, maybe like it could potentially be like, well, for lack of a better term, he might think of her as a rebound girl. And again, I'm using a bad term here for that, but basically, like someone he could like emotionally attach onto now that he's been rejected. And then, I'm not saying that I approve of that. I'm saying that it could be used for good drama here, like
right.
Like
juicy
drama, or maybe it does become genuine. I don't know, but I can see like the groundwork for that. Maybe. I mean, I would hope there is, not because of like I don't really do all that shipping stuff. But I mean, you don't put like an entire scene before the OP of episode 4 where they interact and there's just a tiny little bit of flustering between them without that then going nowhere later. Don't do that, show. Don't be bad.
Yeah, don't. So I really like that scene. That scene drove home to me that like, yes, the show is called Horimiya, but it is not just about the romance between them. It is about the other relationships in their life. It is about what it's like to belong to a friend group and what it's like to kind of exist socially in that, like to get into one, to feel like you belong. It's about like having this place in your school, in your life when you're an adolescent. And so you need other characters for that, and you need other characters that we care about. And I think that they've done a really good job of making the whole rest of the cast like us care about them, whether it's care about loving them, whether it's like we find them charming and sweet, or like we just enjoy hating them because they're shitbags.
Well, this leads me on to
feelings. It's got feelings out of me.
What was his name again? The redhead kid. Why can't I remember? The president.
It's Sengoku.
And pink twin tails girl.
It's like Aya something. Ayakashi? I got it. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Aya. Oh, God damn it. Whatever. We'll just say pink twin tails.
Pink twin tails, right. I mean, that scene with them in the hallway where she's made the mistake of, dropping the budget reports. Ayasaki, right. Yeah. Thank you. So, pink twin tails girl. Sorry.
Yeah.
Pink twin tails girl. Like, when they're having that scene in the corridor, and Sengoku's like, she didn't see anything. And I was just like, I could throttle you right now.
I hate you so much.
Gaslighting prick.
Just.
Yeah. Gaslighting.
Well, I wish Hori still bullied you.
But she's also like, I really don't like the twin tails girl either. Like, I get the feeling if I was to take her head and shake it, all I'd hear is the sound of 2 ping pong balls like bouncing around inside the cavity. There's nothing there.
Look, that would be fine. Like if she
No, but she's got a serious medical condition. She's got 2 ping pong balls in her brain.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was taking you reading that as a metaphor. If she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, that's kind of whatever. But like, when she sort of is manipulative and mean to Hori, even if you want to say in the second episode that she really did forget that she dropped the budget report, I don't know if she did. But let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say she really did forget that and cause lots of. Then you have an episode 3 with her coming in and saying, Miyamura, I will take him. That's just mean. And like, she was only joking or whatever, but it's like, why the fuck would you do that? Why are you being an asshole?
Are we pulling that rhetorical shit? I was just kidding.
I was only joking.
I did a racism, but I was just kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
God.
Don't understand.
Schrodinger's dickhead,
Right. Of course.
Anyway. The reason I'm bringing those two up is because I don't know if they are a couple.
They are. Well, they say they are. They say like, oh, she's Sengoku's girlfriend, and like,
okay, I forgot about that.
Ishikawa's all like, what? They're hot and dating? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, flies track shit and all that. But anyway, point being is that also they serve as a point of contrast to Hori and Miyamura, and in turn, what may potentially be happening with Ishikawa and Sakura, in that you get to see how, because like there's very intimate relationship stuff that happens where indeed Miyamura and Hori do make mistakes already, even before they are dating, if they ever get dating, and I hope they do. I'm 99% certain they will. But that's something I'm going to talk about later. I'll talk about later. But the thing about their intimacy, like, is it's very much like in terms of what they say to each other. I'm not talking like about them, boning or whatever. Even though the show makes a number of jokes like Hori screwed me over.
Oh yeah. There was a big thread on Twitter about the translation of that, and it's like, it could have been this, it could have been that, and like it was delivered weirdly, but I mean, I think we got it. I think we got it.
Basically, Ishikawa thought that they went and banged somewhere. There you go.
But really, he just didn't get a drink. So he remains thirsty. Ha ha. Yes.
I mean, Miyamura went into. No, never mind. I mean. If you want to expand on this, like you've got the ship, which is Hori x Miya, and then you've got the sequel series, which is Hori double x Miya, and then you've got the after hours one, which is Hori triple x Miya. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah. I love the fucking double entendres of that conversation. Like beyond that one, when they just fully go into, it's like, I should have been able to stop it, but I just couldn't help myself.
You can also. So sometimes a soda can, exploding and foaming everywhere is just a soda can exploding and foaming everywhere, and sometimes it's very Freudian. That's all I'm going to say to that.
Sometimes it's your waifu, like in that one show you had to review.
Shut your.
That's right. We're bringing up Akiko on this show. Why? I'm sorry.
You're a dick.
I did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll allow it. It's funny. But yeah, like I think that we get some nice contrast. Because I was saying about like the intimacy, it's all about how they talk to each other, and that's why beyond the gaslighting element of that conversation being reprehensible in its own right, we get a direct contrast between like how some relationships work where without even it being direct, like one person is calling the shots versus an open communication and dialogue with each other, which is what the relationship that Hori and Miyamura are like starting to build, which in turn ties into what happens at the end of episode 1, where he says like, "But I thought like you only were being nice to me because Man, I love that. And can I just put it out there? I'm gonna admit I have felt like that before.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's probably more common amongst a lot of like I was gonna say cis, but let's just say men in general.
Dudes.
Like
Yeah.
I think that reaction, like this person, thinking like treating me well, it's just because they're treating me nice. There's not any genuine.
It's a defense mechanism. You don't want to get your hopes up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been there. I absolutely have been there.
I feel like the show. I thought the same thing about Annie. She will tell you, like, until it was, until I thought that the signals were way more clear for a long time. She was like, I was sending you all these signals. And I was like, that was a signal? I thought you were just like being cool and friendly.
Was that when she was holding up the big neon sign saying "Date me" with an arrow pointing down towards her?
Yes, right. I mean, like, admittedly, it did not go as far as they like. That is why, like, the one time I wanted to just smack Miyamura was like the time that he got in a fight with Ishikawa. And it's like, well, we're just buddies. I'm like, motherfucker, she held your hand like during a movie, like not like a help me across the street, fingers interlocking and we are grabbing each other. And she said, I love you. I mean, no, I love your hands. Come on.
It's like,
how can
thing
you
is, I want
to
expand on that. Like Miyamura says back, like, I love yours too, as in your hands. I'm reading that line as him trying to just circuitously say that he loves her directly.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah.
But she doesn't pick up on it. She thinks he's still talking about her hands.
Oh, God. Anyway, maybe they're just exchanging protein strands. Who the fuck knows? Anyway, we're going to move on. So, next question. This is actually from Gogo Talk Robot.
She doesn't like me. Yeah.
And this is...
Are we all done with Kate, or just...
Well, there are more Kate ones, but some of them have to follow from others.
Do you mind if we take a short break?
I can refill my beer, so yes, of course.
We'll be back
course.
In 2 shakes. We're back.
We're back.
Thanks for
Thank you very much
sticking
for
with
waiting,
us.
everyone. All right, let's go straight onto it then. So this question from Gogo and Sonic Robot says, is Miyamura an authentic depiction of someone who enjoys alternative subculture, or is he a shallow caricature of a scene kid, and why? Okay, so
What a loaded question. I feel like I know how you feel, Gogo.
I have a complicated answer to this question. I don't think that he... Well, the thing is, I don't think we have enough info at the moment about like how much he's actually genuinely likes this subculture. Because all we really have is the aesthetic. I mean, to give some backstory here, I knew from like when I was 16, like I was actually into a girl at high school who was into body modification. And we're talking like far more extreme shit than Miyamura does. Like, she had magazines, for example, showing like how, for example, you get like metal implants under skin and things like that. And if you want my perspective on body modding, by the way, I'm totally cool with you doing whatever the heck you want. The only thing that weirds me out is when you have stuff like Miyamura's where it looks very easily like it could get caught on something. That just makes me flinch because it just makes me always think of it getting caught on a door or a coat hanger.
You feel bad.
Name it.
Yeah. Don't want anyone to get hurt.
I would like if I was walking past someone who had one of Miyamura's like ear to like lip piercings, like this little chain he's got, I would give them a wide berth, not because I'm afraid of them, not because I think they're like horrible or terrible, but I would just legitimately, in a very British way, be very worried about catching it by accident and all the. I'm even shivering thinking about it right now. But also, in my college, that is, after I turned 18, in the UK's college, of course, in the UK is different than America, and then in my university years, I went to a number of rock clubs where there were people who were punks, mods, rockers like goths, you name it, all the various groups there. And for me, like, I think with the benefit of hindsight, my understanding is if you like the way you present yourself, then that's all it needs to be. You know, I wouldn't say like there's a set standard really of like how many piercings one should have, what the piercings should look like.
I hope not.
I mean, admittedly, the only thing I find a bit freaky about body mod is when you have the massive tunnels in your earlobes. But again, that's mostly because I just fear catching them. Like, for the same reason. But anyway, the point being, therefore, is that insofar as Miyamura is concerned, my assessment of him is that the reason I brought up the clubs and that girl with the magazine is that it's not just about the aesthetic, it's about what else you're into. Because there's obviously a lot of crossover with like different music styles of dress. I mean, in the clubs that I went to, for example, you'd have people wearing like stuff from a brand called Cyberdog, which is a lot of neon, for example. New rock boots, you know, big boots with like massive like metal plates on them, that kind of thing. Leather jackets, you know, hairstyles, and then also the music they're into, heavy metal, for example, death metal,
speed metal,
things like
black
that.
metal, thrash
metal. Slipknot, for example, that girl that I mentioned was into Slipknot a lot. And then, of course, you had all the movies that came out, like being big into Rob Zombie. Now, I'm broad stroking here, broad brush. Not everyone, of course, is into all of that. Yeah, not all. Everyone was like exactly into all of those things. But I think that what I'm trying to get across here is that, you know, to describe someone as alternative doesn't start and end at how they look. And therefore, I can't conclude that Miyamura is alternative. I can't conclude who he is just because it's based purely on his aesthetics at the moment. However, I think that from what the show has presented thus far, him styling himself that way, particularly with his piercings, we haven't yet learned how he got his tattoos. I don't even know if we will, but it's a moot point, really. I mean, we saw him, of course, piercing his own ears, and the way that was edited was it followed almost immediately after a scene where he had been bullied again.
Yeah.
Or left out of a group activity. So to me, that was an act of rebellion. Like, well, you've marked me as different, so fuck it. I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to lean into being different because fuck you. That's why. And I know people who've been like that in the past. So I think that for him, his appearance is more of a sense of, well, I've always been treated as different. So if I am going to be different, it'll be on my terms. And you know what? Fair play to him. I've got no disagreement with that whatsoever. We just also, as I say, don't really know enough about his other tastes, really, like what he's into otherwise. Like, apart from not liking horror movies, which admittedly is counter to what you'd think of an alternative person. That's fair on the show's part. I appreciate. And I will mention as well, I just genuinely appreciate that we do get someone who looks alternative at all. who's not a JoJo's villain or something like that, you know,
Sure.
like just a regular person, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But this now leads into my big complaint about the show, whether I feel it could be lifting its weight more. Um, Miyamura's alternative nature to me seems only to exist as a stand-in for a sense of otherness that marks him as the unusual boy that Hori is into. Like you find a lot of times in stories like this where you have like, you know, the lead female is relatively normal, you know, fits like I mean that's why I said Hori seems like a bit generic. That's possibly by design. And you've got like the unusual boy, the mysterious presence. This is of course the basis of shit like Twilight, for example. But
Or
you know,
if you swap the genders, you have a whole fucking ton of fiction with the manic pixie dream girl type. You know, they're so
well when you say
different.
did you say mid 2000s? Because bear in mind, from what we discussed before, Horimiya started in 2007.
No, I said if you flip the genders, then you have something that an arc sort of archetypical uh, a trope from genre fantasy, the manic pixie
Yeah,
dream girl. You know, the
yeah.
but it's kind of flipped in this. The way you're presenting it is that you know like. Sort of typical smart girl, responsible girl, and then into her life floats alt boy,
Yeah.
and
Now,
she's taken aback by it. So this is your characterization of it.
to an extent, but the thing is, there's a certain like it's in an okay spot at the moment where it would be worse if it leaned more into that, but not as much as I otherwise would like, or rather in a different way. And to explain, one thing that Miyamura is not doing, for example, is getting Hori into like you know drugs or anything like that. Nor is he, for example, like changing like inspiring her to change the way she dresses. It's purely a surface layer thing that makes him look different and unusual, and then you know they get the different facing, which does still work. I don't want to detract from that. But I really think that you could replace the alternative like styling element with something else and wouldn't really lose anything. And that to me is a shame because I feel like you could do more with this. Like, for example, the whole tattoos thing. We have to remind ourselves that in Japan, tattoos are a massive taboo in like because of you know their associations with criminality and the Yakuza particularly. Now, I'll grant you, for some reason, Miyamura's got like you know tribal tattoos, and my reaction to that is, well, beyond the fact that you probably shouldn't be
He's
getting
a
tribal
basic
tattoos
bitch.
anyway. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, like
Right.
Jesus Christ, kid, you could have done better than that. Although I will admit that it's written, you know, in the same way that he pierces his ears to make a point to himself, if not to other people. Getting those tribal tattoos was probably more of an act of I want a tattoo rather than I care about what the tattoo looks like. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm waiting for my turn. Yeah.
so I really wish, and this ties into why I think that I wanted Hori to be stand out more as a person, like in terms of how she's written. I really wish the show did more of that, like had other people, like people in authority, particularly, react to like maybe they find, and maybe it still happens. This is a thing. Like we're only 4 episodes in, you know, like say teachers find out Miyamura's got tattoos. You know,
Hmm.
we've seen the side of it at this point. Like episode, like how many episodes there is. He's a good kid. He's not particularly bright, maybe, but that's not a crime.
No,
You know,
we've
he's
established it.
he's a
Yeah.
yeah, he's a sensitive, emotionally mature person, and you know people can't even fucking see you know the tattoos normally. I mean, you can't see mine, for example, unless I specifically show them off. Which is why when people say to me like, "You've got tattoos," it'll hinder you getting a job. I'm like, "A job as what? A fucking stripper? Fuck off." You know, they can't see
It
it.
doesn't. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but what if people found out? You know, because there's cultural taboo, that kind of thing, the piercings kind of thing. I really would like it to delve into this more, where his alternative nature was not simply just a brand of otherness for him that sets him aside from other people. I would like them to make more something more substantive out of it. And that's why I was talking about the sharp contrasts, like, you know, between Hori and him, and also, you know, why I wish he was more distinct as a character. But I should stress again to tie it all back to my core point about this is the show doesn't need to do that. The show does what it feels it needs to do, which is, as I said before, slice of life with a bit of romance and a bit of drama. It doesn't need to also necessarily start, you know, waxing on cultural issues and like, you know, what we make of like, you know, conventional attractiveness, for example.
I find this to be a very odd question because, like, and maybe is a question that she asked early on in the show's kind of run, but I feel like it's odd because the question seems like it's like, does he fit into type correctly? And I think the show is all about saying that, like, types are bullshit. Like, people don't fit into boxes. People, like, that's really are like very artificial, and doesn't kind of represent like the way people really are when you get to know them. And so I think the show, like, I think originally what they want to do, right, with his piercings, his hairstyling and tattoos and everything like that, is just this visual, really simple visual metaphor of he's not who he looks like on the outside. But then, like you said, they tie it into kind of his backstory and his personality a little bit more when they show him piercing himself. And I think this relates a lot to why he headbutted Sengoku. He's expressing himself. It's a person who doesn't know how to express himself, expressing deeply felt, strong emotion. He doesn't have anybody that'll listen to him, that's going to talk to him, to teach him to like, not teach him, because there's nothing, I'm not saying like, someone should have taught him or he wouldn't have gotten his ears pierced. He may very well have done anyway, but like the fact that he felt that was his only recourse. I mean, I think that that's like a really strong character building moment rather than like, you know, and I think they had that planned out. It wasn't like, we're going to make a scene kid, you know, it's like, well, we're going to make this kid that's had these issues, and kind of that sort of informs some of the choices he's made on the spur of the moment, as he'll rightly tell you. You know, he's explained that to Ishikawa. He's not really thinking it through. He's just reacting to how he feels. And it's probably, like you said, like many more of those piercings and tattoos probably came at very emotional moments for him where he felt, I've got to fucking do something to get this out.
Look at the way when he pierces his ear is like first, like emphasis is drawn to the blood, because he's wounded. Not in terms of like having stabbed himself with a safety pin, but wounded from what's going on in school.
Yeah, it's very representational in that way. Totally. And so, I mean, I think I guess I just sort of don't care if like the depiction of like his fashion and stuff like that is like, I don't know. I just don't even think they were thinking about like, we need to make him this authentic goth, mod, punk, whatever. I mean, I just think he's like expressing himself in a very kind of in a way that's very individual to him.
I will say this, I would agree with you, not for the fact that they had that very specific chain thing that makes me nervous looking at it. Because that to me, like, whoever came, like when the writer came up with that, they must have, unless they did specific research, it feels like a very specific thing to put in. Very out there, like, you know, piercing, but that admittedly, I'm hanging a lot on that, and actually, no, I'd rather not hang a lot on that. Oh, Jesus! Oh no! You know what I mean, basically. Like, but I do hear where you're coming from. That ultimately, whether or not I am right in thinking that I wish it did more with it, like it is a means to an end. It is the flavor for which the otherness of Miyamoto is presented, and it still works in that context. So I don't think cool otherness,
like, so I would stay away from, because he feels isolated, but like he's not other than these other kids, but he's just been made to feel that way through some shitty experiences.
When I say otherness, I'm talking specifically from Hori's perspective, because she of course has reactions to him, like where like you know she sees him like, holy crap, he's got this, like what the hell, that kind of thing. That's what, and like, and that's
he's doubly so, like you said, because of the culture, you know what I mean? For a high school boy to have those tattoos and stuff and that many piercings, it's probably way less normal than it would be in the US.
How did he get tattooed though? I'm curious. So that's like I mean, if he presented to the tattooist in the same way that he looks when he's in school, like he'd been like, kid, you're not old enough to like, you know, ride the teacups yet. Did he do it himself, I wonder? I mean, that would have been quite awkward. He'd be there like this, like
Well, yeah.
I mean,
Hopefully not.
as someone who's had tattoos, who has two of them, I will relay my experience of them, which is for the first 5 minutes, it's like having a burning needle threaded through your skin. After that point, I don't know if it's adrenaline, endorphins, natural painkillers, whatever chemical reaction happens in your body, but you stop feeling the pain, but you still feel the sensation.
The pressure.
And it's weird. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's just like it's mutilation basically. That's what it is. I don't mean that. I mean that without the negative connotations that usually come with that word, because obviously it is a choice for the most part that people go through with tattoos.
Yeah. Well, and let me say that also to Gogo. I hope I didn't come across as too harsh in the very beginning, because like, I mean, to be entirely like, I also do think that is, especially if this question came on episode 1, I think it's totally fair because I do think that his aesthetics and design, you know, I mean, like with anything else, like it's going for a particular audience, you know, that would be into that. Like it's trying for that. So it is a very specific choice, and it is a kind of they're I can see them, like, you know, they are making a sort of alternative type in terms of the character design, and to draw in viewers that will be attracted to that type. I mean, I don't think that's a totally fair thing to say, but I just think, like, as the show goes forward, it's like it just becomes so much more organic to me than that, and it becomes so much like it's not this surface level thing. It's really wrapped up in who he is.
I will.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was to say, you know, when you talk about that, what pops into my head, I was reminded of Kanji from Persona 4.
Yeah,
Because he of course presents outwardly in a very much like, no, well, I was going to say passive aggressive, but with Kanji, it's aggressive. Yes, exactly. It's aggressive. But let me just point out something that I do not want to see happen in the show. Like, I flip flop back and forth on how I feel about the Persona 4 Golden ending, where Kanji stops dressing like a punk.
I
And
forgot
that is a
happened.
discussion, and that's a discussion that you and I can, of course, have a different time.
Sure.
But I
think
don't
we've
want
had it.
Miyamura. I don't want Miyamura to like suddenly stop dressing or acting the way he does in his own time with Hori.
I don't think he will.
For either for her sake or just because he. I mean, unless it was done appropriately, where we had sufficient meat to it as to why he might have grown out of it. I mean, granted, he's got tattoos on, so unless he's got high-powered laser on, he ain't growing out of that anytime soon. But the point being, though, like, again, I think that they could do more with this aesthetic element, but I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that
I don't know.
it is probably by Disney.
Okay. What else could they do? Like, what? I guess I can't think of anything.
People find out about it. I mean, again, I have to stress, one, they might not even need to do this or want to do this, because obviously it's by design that it's just serving a purpose other than being about.
So, all right. So I get you. So what you're saying is, going forward, you would like to see. It would be nice if they added more and built more on it. Okay, so it's not a criticism of what has come here.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I can't criticize it at the moment on that basis because the show's not over. But I would like to see it where it made more out of the fact that he belongs to a subculture that in Japan specifically, from what I can tell, is very probably out there and probably not accepted.
I don't think he belongs to subculture. This is his group. Like, he doesn't really belong to any. Like, this is where he belongs. He's not like a scene kid. He doesn't go to shows. You know, he's cake shop.
Well, what shows? Well, that's true. The cake shop is definitely a contrast. But I mean, say, like, I would like them to do more of it, generally speaking, rather than it just be the other face kind of element to it. Where, oh my god, I'm shocked that he looks so like different than what I thought, and I'm like, no, make more of that. Make more of it where it's just like this.
And he is. Well, it's not just that he looks different. He is different. Like, that's what's so great. Is like, it's not just the aesthetics that are different, because the aesthetics give us a stereotype in our head of what he'll be like, but he's also different from that. It's sort of a double move where he's different from Gloomy Gus. Oh, how is he different? Well, because he's an alt dude. Oh, wait a minute. That's sort of how he dresses, but he actually acts way differently. Again, because I think the show is not trying to like say he belongs to a Saturn. It's not operating on that level at all to me. It's just saying, like, people are different than how you would sort of write them off as, and you should get to know them. I think that's the important thing.
But I think if we're going to go develop the other face element, I also would like if he look like there could be an episode where he does wear the full chain, he does wear all the piercings. Maybe he's even wearing a slightly short sleeve t-shirt, so you see a little tattoo, and he's walking around with Hori in like, a town center or somewhere, and some random people might comment on that. Like I want more stuff like that to happen in the future, where it isn't just strictly about Hori being surprised by him looking different, and for it to have more long-term impacts on him in the show.
But have you not? Well, okay, right. Like so for the dress, but I think you would that would have a lot more weight if she wasn't also surprised by how he acted so different from anyone she knows, or from how she thought he would be. I mean, she thinks he's different, but not just because of the way he dresses. Because like she's like, man, like it's not just that he looks different. He is this different person than I would ever imagine him to be. He's caring. Well, that's the thing, he's shy. He's scared.
Yeah,
you
that could tie into it though too, because obviously people in the street wouldn't know what he's like as a person. So that again could tie into the whole multiple faces, multiple sides of a person thing, of how we prejudge people that we see in the street based on how they look, that kind of thing.
But I think they've already done that. Like they did that with all the student characters have gone through that arc.
Only the ones that Hori is close friends with, and they've just mostly written off as comedy. I want some more something a little more serious. Again, talk about the knobs and dials here. Doesn't have to be all serious. I don't want to get expelled, for example, for being found out he's got tattoos or something. That would be a bit too much. But yeah. I feel like they could do more with this than, as I say, he's alternative. I mean, I could replace the alternative element with other things that might that would serve the same function of just making him seem like an unusually.
Like I don't know if they would though, because like we talked about how specifically the piercing relates to his emotions and backstory, and how it's a visual metaphor for what he's going through. So I don't think you could just swap it out with something else, with him being a nerd or him being a skateboarder.
The thing is, if you take that act as an act of self-harm, you could replace that with another act of self-harm too. It's just something
I think the show will be too dark. Like this is like not so dark. It's like him doing a fashion thing that's also kind of painful as an act of self-expression. Because it's self-expression, I think, as much as it is self-harm.
Yeah, I'm going to sum up and move on. Basically, it's just I would like them to do more with it. I feel like they could do more with it, but we'll see, because there are still many episodes left.
Yeah.
And other than that, I'm okay with it thus far. And I'm still stunned that they had the long chain piercing that they did. Not just because of the fact that it just grosses me out, because I really worry again about getting caught, but because it really is out there. Like I've seen very few. I'm going back to my experiences, like that I can remember through the drunken haze of youth, so to speak. I have seen very few people who have chains like that. I've seen them; they do exist, but it's very rare. Same, like I said about the giant tunnels, for example, on the ear. Quite rare. And of course, I've seen people like who've had body mods. I've seen people who've had tattoos on their face. Like, so the fact, like, I again, like that specific thing singles out to me. That whoever wrote this clearly had a knowledge of this subculture, or maybe even knew someone in person who was there. Because I feel like it's so specific, it's something that you wouldn't have sought out to research, like, as how do I make someone different, But it feels like it's drawn from a little personal experience, which is neat.
Could be. I guess, like,
could be.
To draw under my thoughts is like I think it's done an adequate job with this. I don't necessarily. I'm not going to say I disagree that it'll be bad if they did more. I just think in terms of the show's priorities, it's like way at the bottom of other. There's other shit I wanted to do way more.
I do agree with you, and I have to again stress that what I would like to see is not necessarily what would be best for the show. I'm hard to please. Sorry. All right. Next question comes from Kate, and this says, I think we may have already answered this actually. Piggybacking on the question above, do you think Miyamura's look is born of his previous exclusion from social groups and the bullying experienced, as in a self-harm coping mechanism? We've already talked about that.
Talked about that, yeah.
Yes. So next question after that comes from Son of Racken. Do any of the relationships, friendships, and the issues they are dealing with in regards to each other remind you of relationships, friendships in your life, past or present? Ishikawa particularly, I've been there. I've been like, hey, I'm into you. Oh, no, never mind. And then I have to deal with it afterwards.
Ishikawa, my hand is free.
Oh God,
That was the greatest. Oh, the show really makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah,
Man.
a little bit of Miyamura as well. My memories of high school are broadly unpleasant, to be quite honest. But the problem is
Sure.
that I didn't have a means of like, I didn't reply by defining myself into a certain subculture. I don't think I even really defined who I was in terms of like my personality or my ability to be more extroverted until I was like 17. So, but yeah, Ishikawa's like rejection and how he handles that. Like, granted, most of it's played for comedy, but I'm glad that we are hinting about him meeting Sakura. Like, and you know, again, I don't know how they'll go with that, but it's an avenue that's worth exploring
Yeah.
regardless.
That makes him feel like a real person and not just like a prop for Hori and Miyamura. He might have his own shit going on.
He's not the third wheel.
Yeah. So I guess this is as good a place as any to say this. Like, a clear little runway for Doc the Cornball. It's probably gonna sound corny as hell, but I'm gonna do it.
I never would have guessed you were a combo.
Yeah, yep. It's surprise, surprise. There is stuff not necessarily depicted a lot, but talked about and shown a bit that I feel like is deeply true of how I feel about my marriage and my relationship with my wife, especially that shit in episode 1 about how getting to see the hidden side of someone else when no one else gets to, like, and Miyamura's like, I like how you are in public, I like how you are at school, but I really like, how you are at home when you like dress in like, like a hoodie or whatever, or something where it's like, you just kind of, or whatever. And like your hair is just like put up in a clip, and you have your guard down, and you're like really honest, and you're, telling people how you feel and doing what you want and putting your feet up and letting your metaphorical hair down. It'd be letting your hair down, but also putting your hair up in a clip. Like, yeah, all that stuff is like, that's the good shit, man. Cause like, it may seem counterproductive, or not counterproductive, counterintuitive to some people. Like, oh, what, really? That's what I have to look forward to? My significant other, like, looking frumpy and not caring about their appearance, or being crabby in the morning, or like complaining about something, or like making fun of people. And it's like, yes, because
Little things are what matter.
It's because if you can create a place for both of you where you both feel safe enough and comfortable enough in your own skin to be that way, I mean, what more could you? That's just incredible. Like,
It is.
I've only ever felt like that degree of safety with my best friend from college, and it's like in a different galaxy. It's like a different level of feeling, but it's, I felt really comfortable around my best friend. But like, yeah, I mean, with my wife, it's like, I don't know, like, I'm the only person in this world that like she will like talk shit about other people to, because like it's like in the deep levels of her brain that it's like she feels it, but she also feels other things, like good things toward them, and she wouldn't tell any people that because like don't want people to get the wrong idea. But it's like, it's just special because like you're the only person that gets to hear it, and they feel safe enough around you to like do that,
Yeah,
and be that way. And it's like, it's super good. It's like, listen, waking my wife up when she's like all sleepy and like mad about it, it's hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. I get a kick out of it all the time. There was like a great thing.
How have you not been punched first thing in the morning?
There was a great, I think Lindsay retweeted it, so where I saw it, like how I feel in the morning and what my husband sees.
Yeah,
and it's like a tiger versus a tiger cub. And that's exactly right. That's so true. But yeah, man, like that shit, like in that first episode, it rang really true. And yeah, I mean, there's like the wife that like my other people that other people know, and kind of they have like what they imagine her to be, and then there's like the real person, which is some of that, but also a lot fuller, and like that's such a cool thing to explore for a show, and so I'm glad the show is doing that.
Yeah, the show's interactions between Hori and Miyamura are wonderfully authentic. Like it, it's amazing to me, like how, like it really lays out how precious those moments are, even little things. I mean, you said yourself, like people have said, like, oh, that's what I've got. I know that's something you can truly look forward to, because even if they're only little things, they're yours
Yes.
and yours alone. And what's more, there are so many of them.
There are, and it's like it's a place you made, like, to make that happen. It's like it's great. It's cool, and there's stuff about like Miyamura that, again, I thought like felt really of accord. That's not the right. I felt like a similar kind of felt seen, like, from my own adolescent experiences, but that's different to relationships. I've never had like a I've never quite had like a relationship like Miyamura and Ishikawa, but I don't know. It's sort of depiction. It's not given the same room to breathe that Miyamura and Hori are. So there's not a lot of seriousness. There's just a lot of comedy, which is really fun. But yeah, it's that one is something. I mean, maybe a little. I mean, I think Shindo. Now Shindo is someone who reminds me of someone from my middle school, high school years who was really nice to me, even though he had no reason to be. And that guy had a lot of other friends and was popular and played football, but like he also liked video games. And so we would talk about video games, and he would be like, "Do you want to come over and play Command and Conquer or Street Fighter?" And I'd be like, "Yes, I do." So,
man, you know what's funny? If I had to speculate, I'd reckon that what you've done there, Doc, is providing with an outlet to talk about that. So you literally got to see the other side of someone.
I guess I did, yeah.
There you are. There you are. All right. Let's move on to the next question then, which comes again from Kate Rose. In episode 2, why do you think Miyamura headbutts Sengoku, the student council president, over the issue of the missing budget paperwork? Because he fucking deserved it. Take that, you sack of shit.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I've answered this question, so you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna just. Firstly, he was a gaslighting prick who deserved it. He was putting her in an awkward position. He clearly, I mean, when he said, like, she says she saw nothing, like, he was clearly relishing in the moment of the power he had over Hori.
Yeah.
This wasn't anymore just about a simple, oh, where's the paperwork gone? All right, you know what, it's lost, whatever, we'll work it out. No, this was deliberately trying to publicly humiliate her. And so the answer, eye for an eye, I'll publicly humiliate you. But narratively speaking, I think what's also worth noting is that it goes to show us that there are other elements to Miyamura that you wouldn't otherwise think. Again, if I were to rate him as a character in terms of who would win the fight, I would have had it be Ishikawa, not him, and that the show even concludes that later. And it goes to show like he is not above like physical violence. And again, like I would prefer that violence didn't happen. But I'm also not going to lie that sometimes, like I'm speaking from my own experience as a kid here, sometimes you literally do need to punch a motherfucker who deserves it. Sometimes, for all the rules that school can say, like about telling, teaching, and all that, sometimes the only way that people will respect you when they have done wrong, when they've clearly done some awful shit, is to be fucking giving it to them physically. And so, I'll own it. I'll own my approval of that. Like, totally. You can come at me all you want and say, like, he shouldn't have headbutted. I'm like, no, I think he fucking deserved it, especially for the way he was treating Ori about, like, she didn't see anything. Like, no, fuck you gaslighting prick.
Yeah, he sucks.
We're gonna swirl you that red out of your hair, you little shit.
And like, wasn't it so funny how when the fucking girlfriend, school idol popular lady, it's like, oh no, go me, and then everyone disperses. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. Grr, we'll be mad at you in the other room. But yeah, it really was like he's trying to fucking make a public scene to humiliate her.
She has the personality of a sock puppet, to be honest.
I know. And like after all she's done for them, I mean, this is not the first time she's done it, obviously. Like, her friends are always like, why do you do this for them over and over? Well, I mean, it's like she's done so much work for them, and now he's gonna treat her like that. What a garbage human. I mean, it was sucky behavior. And so yeah, he deserved to get headbutt. Now, why did he even think to headbutt him? I think it's because, like I talked about before, like this is how he this is like a pattern of how he expresses himself, very violently, physically, without thinking too much, whether it's like he's piercing his ear, he's getting in a fight, he's getting a tattoo, or he's headbutting this guy. Like, it all comes from the same kind of place because that's just what he's had to do to express himself. He hasn't really had people to talk to so much.
Yeah, I agree. If he's only been treated badly, then what do you expect to happen in return, basically?
Well, just like Shindo said, who do you think made him that way? His asshole friends are like, oh man, he's so quiet. If he gets mad, he's gonna beat the shit out of you. It's like, well, who do you think made him that way, you dicks? Like, if you wanted to change, how about you treat him like a human being?
Crazy, innit? Next question. In episode 3, what did you think when Miyamura beats up Ishikawa during their disagreement about Hori's feelings? Why was Miyamura mad at Ishikawa in that moment? I'm going to pass this over to you, Docs. I'm trying to remember the specific lines were said, and they're just kind of eluding me right now.
Well, so he's like, Ishikawa's saying, hey, Hori's in love with you. And dude is like, nah, man, we're just friends. We're cool. I mean, she held my hand and all, but I promise she doesn't like me like that. And Ishikawa's like, God damn it, you're so thick. Your head is like a fucking rock. And he didn't really say that, but he like reaches over to grab him. And Miyamura just gets like surprised and punches him in the face. And then Ishikawa starts insulting him and slaps him. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. And then Miya beats the shit out of him, as Ishikawa put it. And, said, look, I know, sorry, I got startled, but also I was just pissed at you. I think he's just like, funnily enough, he can be very honest with himself sometimes around Hori. But to other people, maybe it's just like a thing he wants to keep private and not really talk about so much. So he was pretty annoyed at Ishikawa. And Ishikawa still has those, he still has a flame burning for Hori. So he's annoyed, kind of, even though they're really good friends. I think there's still a little kind of undercurrent of like, why you and not me? Damn you.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I think sometimes like it's necessary for friends to, maybe if not necessarily physically, but certainly verbally fight it out amongst themselves to get shit off the chest. And
the fucking social link, was it Yosuke?
Yeah, Yosuke, the rank 10 shit, I remember that.
Beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah. As to why Miyamura was mad at Ishikawa in that moment, I think it's... God, my best guess is just that he, for one, as you say, like maybe doesn't quite know how to like more tactfully deal with these things. But secondly, if I had to get the core idea of it, why he is mad at him, I'd probably go with like, how his like hanging on to Hori is like acting as a boat anchor for them all moving forward. It's like a depressing. No, when I say depressing, I don't mean as in like emotional. I just mean like as in it's putting actual pressure on them moving forward, that kind of thing. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. I think he's just kind of annoyed at him. And I don't even think he was really, really mad, because like he was ready to apologize and he took all the blame for it. Same as Ishikawa, but there's just a lot of emotions happening there, and it bubbled over. And unfortunately, Miyamura is like prone to violently react at times when he's afraid or angry or annoyed.
Absolutely. Next question comes from Son of Rackham. I don't know if we'll necessarily answer this one in full because it kind of already covered it, but just to have a look. Similar to one of the above questions with a slightly different take, but do you think it's possible Miyamura's look outside of school was in any way originally born from a desire to express himself, be more carefree, or what he sees as cool, since he himself seems to doubt himself and struggle more than he would like socially at school? That could certainly be it.
Yeah.
I certainly think there's a dichotomy between how we present ourselves in a more formal environment, be it work or school, and how we present ourselves out of it. And that's even down to the fact that, for example, like if you want to talk even during the pandemic, when I, for example, dress entirely casually these days when I'm on, team meeting calls, well, I'll tell you for free, folks, watching the video, if you think I'm doing video calls at work on business meetings where they can see everything behind me, that's not true. I have a dedicated office where all they get is a David Bowie poster. I could, in theory, have this all set up here. So, my work PC is down here. And then my calls would be showing the same kind of footage you're seeing now. But I deliberately choose not to. Partly because I want to have a separate space for when I, spend my personal time versus where I work for my sake of my mental health. But also because I really, really don't want to actually show all this stuff to people who I don't think are open-minded enough to go, wait a fucking minute, that kind of thing. So even that plays a part in it. And I think, again, that speaks to the universality of the show's appeal, where it's like, we do present ourselves differently depending on the environment. And in a given ideal world, we'd be who we want to be all the time. We present ourselves all the way that we could all the time. As for whether or not Miyamura is actually legitimately into the fashion that he wears, or if it's just a convenient suit of armor, if you want to call it that, I can't answer at this point. I would like it to be explored in more detail, though, as I mentioned before.
But it feels like both to me.
Yeah,
I feel like Rackham kind of nailed the long and the short of it.
Absolutely. Next question comes from Kate Rose again. This relates to the fight. Do you think this fight spurred on Miyamura's confession in episode 4, or were these events unrelated? Given the fact I don't think there was any direct editing or through line in terms of the way that the scenes were structured, I'm going to go with no.
I mean, I think I can't say it didn't play a part at all, because Ishikawa continuing to push this idea of like, hey, she's into you, man. It's got to like subconsciously, put ideas in your head. I mean, I know when I was on the market, and someone told me like, oh man, this girl digs you or whatever. Like, that certainly influenced the way I thought about things and behaved, and whether or not I asked the girl out and things like that. So, I mean, I don't think he confessed because of the fight solely, but I think it it was probably one of a number of factors. It felt like the confession was like, he found the right moment to say what he had been wanting to say for a long time anyway.
I agree. I will say that I think what I said before, like about, I'm not going to say it didn't have no impact, but I think that in terms of what emphasis the show was put on it, I don't think it was the primary factor, certainly. Mm-hmm. I think that it was just a moment where he felt like he could say that. And I'll admit, by the way, just as an aside, when I first watched that scene, I was infuriated by it, because I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, we're not having this thing again where I'm going to confess my feelings while the person's feverish or otherwise not entirely capable of comprehending it.
Whoa, I had the craziest dream. You said you loved me. Isn't that ridiculous?
Crazy.
I was so worried.
Well, I'm gonna let it slide, to be honest, because at the risk of getting ahead of myself here, what I want the show to do basically is this. Let's assume it has 12 episodes. I think that's reasonable. Mm-hmm. I want a 6-6 split.
Okay.
First 6 episodes, the build up to them being together. The 6 episodes after that, the early days of the relationship. Because one thing I think a lot of anime don't do when they have like people getting to, and MMO Junkie, for example, did this, is all right, we're together and that's it.
Yeah. The confession and acceptance is like the climax of the show. I agree. I don't like that. I would rather get to see them working on the relationship and having it and have some of that to pay off everything that we put into it beyond the original I love you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I will add a caveat though. Like, let's take. I'm going to throw Berserk out here because I mentioned it before. Even though this is obviously not what happened in the show whatsoever. Let's say and this is just purely for illustrative purposes. Let's say an alternate version of Berserk that none of the shit with Femto happened. They won,
This
the
is
White
my favorite
Hawks.
version of Berserk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. All the stuff with the Band of the Hawk happened, and they got to retire.
Griffith
Guts
became
finally...
king, and then rightfully.
Now, Guts and Casca, them getting together was not the primary goal of the story. At least this hypothetical alternate version of the story. It was more of a, happy side effects of when I say side effect, I don't really mean like that as if it was unconsequential. You know what I mean, basically. It was something that happened while the story was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if they walked off into the sunset together and we didn't get to then see the early days of their relationship, I'd be okay with that because it is a side element of the wider stuff that's going on in their lives. But in Horimiya, that's the entire thing. Mm-hmm. The build up to the relationship is the entire story. And that's why, for me, I make a distinction there that I do want to see them actually get into a relationship before the show ends and then have some time establishing the early days of it, laying the groundwork, seeing how things are different, like how it's different for their friends, like they now know they're dating, how it's different from them. Do they, one of the fears that I have, about relationships is all right, I'm in one, and suddenly, do I act differently?
Sure.
Now it's formal, quote unquote, formalized.
Yeah.
Do I act differently? Because the thing that's really neat about the interactions between Hori and Miyamura is that they're very organic, they're very authentic, and that's good. But then, once they do hook up, does that change? Do they feel a stiltedness to it? That they have to do things differently because they are a couple now? Whereas in reality, once you're with someone, the idea behind it should be, well, it's business as usual, really, in some respects, because we obviously had things that were attracted to us to each other, and that we liked about each other, and we don't want those to go away or change. That could be a part of it as well. So I really, really want to see them get together well before the show's end so we can have some time with them as a couple and then dealing with everything that follows from that. I'm not saying that they have to go through some deep fucking tragedy, but just,
Sota dies and they have to...
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry.
Let's not...
I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's that would just be what the fuck are you doing, show?
Sengoku challenges Miyamura to a sword fight or something. I don't know.
Yes.
He really does have the toga, the toga aspect for him.
Yeah.
He really
He's the president.
Does. But he's also red-haired, convenient. Once he grows up a little bit more, he'll gain the Seiyu's voices. The guy who voices Dio. I don't know. Anyway, point being, I would like that to happen where we get to see the relationship actually happen, and get to explore it.
I would love that. Because those are really interesting challenges, and it doesn't have to be all challenges. It could be we could get an episode or more of peaches and cream, sunshine and rainbows, and I would love that. I would eat it up. But also
they hold hands. Yeah, they hold hands in public now.
Maybe they call each other by their first names.
No, whoa, dog. Let's not get ahead of ourselves there. Holy shit, that's some out there thinking, mate. Whoa,
because
whoa.
One day, Hori, you have to change your name possibly if you go do the traditional thing to Miyamura. So you can't just call me Miyamura.
So does that mean the show's called Miya now?
It'll have to be if they get married and do the traditional name swap.
Oh my god. Okay, final question from Son of Rackham. I think it's safe to say this show has had quite a few moments already that have struck us emotionally. Is there any one moment that stands out particularly above the rest for you? It's the one I've mentioned before where it basically made me again remind myself that I have to be vigilant. I have to be better, which is there's I think there's a pervasive attitude amongst a lot of men these days where when women are nice to you, uh, they either don't mean it, or in the case where they might genuinely be interested in you, they only mean it just to be polite. You know, I think the wider implication of that scene and what it made reminded me of was you need to try and treat it as it's presented. You know, which is sometimes they are genuinely being nice to you, but sometimes they do genuinely have more interest in you than that. And if it turns out that you understand it because of that, that's not their fault. You know, you can't blame that. Like Jesus Christ, you know, people are giving a shit to fucking women over this kind of crap over the years is embarrassing for my fucking gender. But anyway, point being, no, it was one of those things where whenever I watch a show where it shines a light on that kind of behavior from people like me in terms of like gender, and all that sort of stuff, and just general attitudes. Like even if I'm not doing that, it doesn't mean that I don't think about it, and I don't think A, I've done that in the past, and B, I need to be vigilant to make sure I never let it happen again.
No, that's super great. Excellent scene to pick. I guess mine would have to probably be. I'll talk about more later, but if I had to pick one moment, there's so many, but I think the one where I felt like, oh my God, this is me. I feel this so strongly. And I think this is not unrelated to what you just talked about. The group project shit.
Yeah.
And it's more like half an episode almost than a moment, because there's so many different great parts to it, right? There's like, at the beginning of episode 3, you have the flashbacks of him being left out of all these groups, and then it's group project time again, and it's like, oh fuck, this is the worst. I know what's gonna happen. Everybody's gonna group up, and here will be me left out alone by myself, Miyamura. And then some fucking righteous crusader will be like, hey, someone pick Miyamura, and that'll make me feel even just so much better. Like, so like, I think this has happened to me so many times in junior high school and high school. It's why I was always so happy when the teacher assigned the groups, and it was not just group up on your own based on the people you like. But once again, the show is all about, I think, subverting not our audience expectations to some degree, but the characters' expectations that they have of other people. Because like Miyamura thinks he knows, but then all the other desks come to him. They don't even call him over. They're not saying, you make an effort and come to us. They all come to him.
Yeah.
So fucking great. I just wish that would happen to me.
Yeah. Can I expand on that? Because I think there's a key lesson in the episode that I think is really neat, which is Miyamura assumes by default that he's just going to be ostracized again, left to it, even with people he's relatively familiar with, and one of which whom he is emotionally intimate with, So I think the lesson here, and I think this is a really neat one actually, is it doesn't diminish the fact that he has been mistreated in the past, but it really goes to show that you do have to be the better man, and try and come from a place of positivity where you will reach out yourself. Now, granted, that doesn't quite happen here, but the lesson is key that there are still people out there who will come to him. He needs to reach back. It's not a one-way street here where eventually he will find the right group of people who come to him. He does have to reach back also.
Well, I think the way that I read it was that and this is pretty dark shit, the show doesn't really like allow itself to feel super dark, but I think there's a lot of self-hatred, and at the very least, some very deep-seated self-esteem issues with him. Because you have, like, these 3 people that brought their desks to him and wanted him to be part of their group. And he's going over to Hori's house all the time.
Yeah.
And they're having these intimate and wonderful moments. But he can always find a reason in his mind why people might not like him. That's the default, not a sort of state of neutrality or likability. It's people don't like me. And so even in that moment, when everyone comes to him and makes him part of the group, he's like, do I really belong here? What are friends? Are these people comfortable with me saying that we're friends? I mean, this is something the other people don't really think about as deeply because they've always had friends. But like, he's just like, am I worthy of their friendship? Am I worthy to be liked as a human? Like, he cannot allow himself to believe he's worthy of love and worthy to be befriended. And I think that's why it's annoying, but it doesn't seem super out of character and doesn't bother me super much that Miya can't believe that Hori's in love with him, despite the signals that are obviously there, because he's a guy who's a little bit of a dim bulb, but also he just comes from this place of self-loathing where, like, to believe that someone would love you is to, like, it runs counter to all the data that he has. It runs counter to the messages that he's played himself in his brain over and over and over again. And that stuff is hard to shake. Sometimes you can't really do it by yourself. It takes therapy or it takes a group effort to rewire your brain. And it's hard as shit. And, like, so seeing that, I mean, again, I felt like, wow, like, the show gets it, like, because I have felt this way. I'm in a much better place now, but, like, I have felt this way before. Where even in the act of someone being kind and being a friend or cool, I second guess, and I think, like, so, like, I think, like, yes, like, he has to, like, reach back. I don't disagree. I just think, like, he's got to, like, he just needs other people right now. He's got to get healthy. And I think, I think he will reach back with Hori. I mean, he's, like, stepped up to help Hori out, and, like, with Sengoku.
Yes.
And with
her brother.
And the fever. And her brother. But I also think, like, I mean, thinking about it now, I mean, I can actually kind of see how he might think, well, what we do at home at your house is like this sort of hush-hush fantasy dream world that we don't really talk about. That's not real. That's not really you. The real you is, like, school you. And, like, have this as a talking point, and he keeps trying to put her in a box and assume things about her the way that, like, other people did about him because of how he looked. Like, there's that great...
Yeah, he's guilty of the same crime.
It's an amazing scene at the end of episode 1 where he says, Hori says, like, did you really tell Ishikawa we would be a bad couple? Did you tell, why did you tell him all this shit? And he was like, well, I was worried about your reputation. And she's like, where the fuck do you come off, like, having this idea about me, like, and not even talking to me about anything?
Can I just intervene and point out I'm so happy that she roasted him alive for that, because for one, he needed his fucking head knocking together for saying that stuff. Even as much as I might say that I've said that kind of, or felt that kind of way in the past, doesn't mean that, like, I want to excuse, like, myself, like, from being clocked around the ear for doing that. And I'm glad the show was clear that, he's unambiguously in the wrong for that, and he got roasted for it. Yeah, I really am glad they did that, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a similar scene in episode 4 I've written in my notes. I don't remember the exact context, but I just wrote, like, LOL at being concerned with, and this applies to both Hori and Miyamoto, what they think that the other person thinks they're supposed to be like. Oh, yeah, it was because she was, like, saying, oh my God, she was like critiquing her own reactions. Like, he stripped in front of me and showed me his tattoos and I didn't care. Maybe I was supposed to act embarrassed. Maybe that's like what the type of person he wants me to be. Like, everyone is...
He never does up his shirt, by the way, throughout the rest of the scene.
I know, it's great. But there's just, I don't know, there's just like this continual concern where they come back to, like, they keep having to relearn this lesson over and over, which is great. Of like, rather than like assuming what someone is like based on what you think that their type is, or kind of what group they conform to or something like that. Talk to them. Ask them. Judge by their behavior. You know what I mean? It's great. It's so great. I love it so much.
Yep. Presumptions. You gotta be careful with those.
Yep.
Right. We're actually at the end of Patreon questions, so thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. We had a lot. We've got a lot to talk about. We covered pretty much most of what I wanted to say, actually. I have one final thing that I'll bring up in a moment. But before I do, if you've enjoyed all the questions that have been asked, and thinking, hey, I'd like to get in on that action, pop on over to patreon.com/Warui Deshou. Get yourself on the $2, $3, or $5 tiers, and you get to ask questions for the streams that go appropriate to those. So $2 tier is our stream of thought, $3 tier is this one, which covers Horimiya at the moment, that's second stream, and $5 tier is, of course, Deshou the Third, which will be covering Girls' Last Tour starting next week. All right. So, talking points. I only have one that's not been covered by everything we discussed. And I want to bring this up because I feel it's really important. So, remember in episode 4 when Hori speaks about, like, you know, how her mum, like, left her behind and all that? And I'm not saying, like, as in she abandoned, but it was just a work-related thing. Like, it was an unfortunate circumstance. So left behind is probably not the correct. But you know what I mean, basically.
Well, it sucks. I mean, it's... I having been the child and the parent, like, it's, you know, I see both sides of it, but, like, I just hate it that, like, you can't stay home with your sick kid, you know?
Yeah. But what I want to note here that I find really interesting is that, bear in mind that when Miyamoto turns up, like, it's an equivalent situation, but it's not equivalent people.
Right.
And I think that's really key, because I think it speaks again to how the show is...
It's a good fucking point.
Representing the universality of these experiences where, you know, okay, that was obviously Hori's mother, and now this is Miyamoto, someone who she's romantically interested in. But the core idea of just being emotionally and physically cared for by someone remains even from childhood going forward to adulthood. And I really, really like that, because it goes to show, like, how there are core universal experiences that we just recontextualize and feel differently about with different people as we grow older. And it helps give the show, like, a sense that this is relevant to different age groups, these experiences, because it's a repetition of a similar scenario, just with a different person under different context, and how they feel about them is different, but it's still the same idea. And I think that there's something very primal even about the fact that, you know, like, Hori just wants to be looked after in that circumstance. You know, it's very base, and I don't mean base to be derogatory. I mean base to say, like, it's a very core, like, feeling about us as human beings. And Miyamoto has, like, similar things, like, you know, with his own arc throughout, you know, his history as a younger child, and then to where he is now.
He just wants someone to tell him, like, you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I really, really like that this show, through these examples, drills down to show that there is a core idea of caring and affection that it displays itself in different contexts, be it between a mother and daughter or between a prospective partner and yourself, that still remains true no matter what age you are. And I think it really helps give the show a sense of being relevant for everyone. Like, we've talked about universality before. I think this is a big part of it. I really, really appreciate that element of it.
Yeah. That's very well said. I can say nothing more. I think that is beautifully put.
Oh, I can clock off early then. Yeah.
I don't know.
I kid.
I don't know if I have. I don't know if I have, like, any other points. I think we probably covered. I don't know. We covered so much of it. Like, I mean, we've podcasted for, like, longer than the 4 episodes, which is our norm.
Well, it's what we do. We bounce.
We do. The bants fly free and fast.
They do.
But,
all right.
But
well,
yeah,
shall we?
I think I don't think I have any more. I mean, I'll probably be kicking myself if I forgot to say something, but I think it'll be easy to revisit that stuff later. And I think I said the bulk of what I wanted to say. The show is great. It's amazing. It has a chance to be. I think it has a chance to be best in class for me in terms of rom-coms. I love it a lot. It's hitting all the right buttons for the genre for me.
Before I get into my rating, then, because we'll get to rating the episode now. For me, I remember one of our first things that we discussed after this podcast was, what's the set standard? What tools do we use to analyze this? And I'm going to pick a particular show that I'm going to compare Horimiya to for me. Okay. Because not all rom-coms are built the same, of course. Like I said, I wouldn't compare this, for example, to Kaguya-sama.
Hashtag not all rom-coms. Sorry, I had to.
Hashtag not, yeah. That's fair. I wouldn't compare it to Kaguya-sama, though, because Kaguya-sama is very much of a different construction, a different idea.
It's like a gag show, you know?
It pretty much is, yeah. It's a sitcom, for lack of a better term. The show that I've seen, though, and that you've seen as well, that I would use as the barometer for this, is actually MMO Junkie.
Okay.
Because that is very much about two different sides of a person.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget about Mori-chan and Sakurai. And I think also it speaks to my viewpoint when we were at that stage in MMO Junkie where I was like, I'm really optimistic about this, but it's got to stick the landing. Because I do think that there are things that Horimiya as a show could be doing more of, potentially. But I've discussed that, of course. But also, it's, to me, the most paramount thing now is they actually do end up being in a relationship before the end of this. Because I want to see that. I want to see that develop. Like, I don't want it to be relegated to a season 2 scenario, if you want to call it that. Like, show us like the build-up, show us the actual moment of triumph where they do hook up, and then show us what follows after that. Like, you know, because I think they're trying to like really play. The show's really trying to play for like being, you know, relatable for a lot of people, and certainly there's a lot of authenticity and just organicness to the interactions. Like the scene between Miyamura and Hori, you know, when he's like, I feel like these times only belong to me. That was like, I was like, yes, such a great line, because not only is it very heartfelt for him to, not only is it heartfelt for him to say that, but it's also, I think, very true. And as you said, like when he talks about like, you know, your relationship with Annie, like, hey, you know, these moments are mine alone. They are precious to me. Small though they may be, there are many of them, and they are mine.
Exactly.
And I think it really encapsulated that well. But yeah, MMO Junkie is going to be the yardstick for me to compare it to. That's going to be the thing to beat. And I think it's quite possible, because MMO Junkie unfortunately ended pretty badly. You know, unfortunately for it. Wasted. And the funny thing is as well, I also said, I think the MMO Junkie also had a lot of stuff it could have done that it chose not to do. Sure. I really wish it. So So at this point, I feel that's my yardstick. But as how I feel right now, if I'm going to rate this out of 5, I'm going to give Horimiya episodes 1 through 4 out of 5 precariously positioned ear to cheek piercings out of 5. I was tempted to rate it slightly lower, but I'm given everything we discussed. I think that it's a really strong start for the show. I have genuinely enjoyed it, make no mistake. My complaints thus far really are, one, Creeper Teacher could be ejected from the show without consequence.
Get him the fuck out of there, yeah.
Yeah, you could eject those 2 minutes without any consequence. And actually, I missed off what I was going to say about, which is when I said before about the defense I was going to raise in that. Like, if Hori had self-image issues or anything like that, that would be a reason for it to be in there, narratively speaking. And that would tie into, like, you know, the whole different side of things, like, you know, how we present ourselves. Like, I feel like you could have tied that in some meaningful way to the whole different sides of people thing that's going on. You know, like where, you know, like, that's all that people see me as. That kind of thing. You know, there are many different ways you could have gone with this rather than it just being a lame joke. Because that's all it is presented as. It's a lame joke that just lands with all the grace of a sack of bricks hitting the floor. It's shit.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, trying to, like, encourage her because she doesn't have any romantic prospects or something like that. But, like, even though he doesn't know, she does.
Well, that's the start of the show, though. Like, we don't even know who she really is at that point. So what the fuck does it matter?
I know.
Like, you know,
it's like it's super weird, and not funny, and just it could definitely be excised from the show.
Yeah. Now, some other things I'll mention as well. In that, I'm enjoying the relationship building. I think the humor works when it pops in. I don't think it's as funny as like other shows I've seen. Like Kaguya-sama is funnier in my opinion, but that's also dialed up the comedy more. So that's my intent. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I've seen perspectives out there that for one, the show is a bit heteronormative, or even too heteronormative, which I think came from Vrai Kaiser of Anime Fem. And I'm not disagreeing with their perspective. I'm just merely mentioning it as something to offer contrast to my opinion as a cishet guy. And also the fact that there is apparently shades of homophobia in the banter between Ishikawa and Miyamura. And I can kind of see that in some place, depending on how you read it. I don't think it's ill-intentioned, though. On, like, say, some of the stuff in Persona 4, for example, which is
Oh
definitely more
God, no.
ill-intentioned.
Yeah, I feel like the homophobia is from the onlookers. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe in the Japanese, maybe because I'm not a Japanese speaker here. I can only read the English subs.
Yeah.
But anything between the two of the characters themselves I didn't get that feeling. But like when other people react to them, like, what, the power of love? Are they dating? Blue sort of queasy face.
It's a curious thing. It can make one heart. No, sorry, never mind. I'll stop that.
Like,
no, the reason I am bringing that is not to drag on Bright Eyes, but rather I want to point out something that I've said before, which is myself and Doc, and I feel confident saying this on his behalf. We are merely two perspectives in a giant ocean of opinions, and our perspectives are inherently colored by who we are as people, both being cishet guys. So I would invite you. As you should be doing anyway, you shouldn't be coming to us solely for opinions. You should be rather for your sole source of opinions. I would invite you to read elsewhere. Check out Vrai's thoughts on Horimiya. Check out other people's thoughts on it as well. I would definitely strongly recommend you do that. But from my perspective, it's a solid start. I've quite enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. I wish it was doing more with what it's set up already, but that's me being petty. And Creeper Teacher can get shot in the sun. Moving on.
So I guess my closest comparison would be like the anime adaptations of stuff by Yuyuko Takemiya, Toradora, and Golden Time. Just in terms of like how I felt about the characters and the romances and the ensemble casts. But I am, as you probably know, listeners, a massive victim of recency bias. So, take this how you will. But I am very enthusiastically in love with everything the show is doing, visually, orally, cinematically, characterization-wise, plot progression-wise. I can't believe I'm saying this about like a show that was written by the person that wrote the Elfen Lied anime adaptation, and Ikki Tosin, but like I super duper trust this show now.
It was a really bad day for them. That's all I can say.
I really trust this show, like in terms of delivering what I want, whether or not I know I want it. Like I think wherever they end up going, like I feel good about it. Just because like up to this point, it's been so solid. And like after 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, fuck, man, I'm so worried. Are they going to get together? But like episode 4 and then the rewatch of these episodes and kind of all at once and how they connect really made me think like, even if they don't get together for a few episodes, like there's just a lot here that they could continue to explore. Because I was worried. I was like, if they don't get together, the show's just going to spin its wheels. It's just going to be doing nothing and putting off what they know that they want to do. But actually, there's just like way more there than I originally gave credit for. And they could fill the time with really interesting, thoughtful stuff and not have them be together romantically yet. Which is saying something, I think, is a good achievement for them. I think the foundation is so solid. As for like the homophobic stuff, like I'll have to read that article because like, it just didn't hit me that way. The only time where I thought about the word homophobia was again when Hori did it in episode 1 and 2 random background extra girls did it in episode 3 where they were like, "You're creeping me out." the way that you, Ishikawa, and Miyamura are talking about each other.
Yeah.
That's stupid. But, like, to me, like you say, cis, straight, white male guy, like, I am able to compartmentalize and put that to one side. Other people, it might annoy a lot more, but the ratio just seems to be so small that I'm able to compartmentalize it. There may be more stuff in the, like, subtextually that Vry is that they're seeing in the banter between the two boys, whereas to me it just came off, and again, then maybe this is my naivete, it just came off as a really, like, genuine silliness because Miyamura is just so awkward and Ishikawa is so affectionate, like, straightforwardly so. So that is where I stand on that currently. But yeah, I'm gonna give the show, like, I was gonna go 4.5, but I'll go 4.75. Fancy cake shop cakes in a red box out of 5.
Can I just say, when you were talking then about the homophobia stuff, what popped into my head was, if you wanted to ever have a perfect encapsulation of why this is a product of its time, as it was written in the late 2000s or mid to late 2000s, the DVD fucking menu. That's authentic. That little DVD logo popping around on the TV.
Didn't we got that in Kabuchiko no Sherlock?
Yeah. Oh no. Wait. What DVD symbol? Oh no. You were talking.
Yeah, the DVD bouncing.
Oh fuck! Why did you do that?
Mrs. Hudson was explaining a case to them, and the DVD thing was bouncing.
Yeah.
It was either DVD or Sony. Some logo was bouncing. I think it was DVD, but yeah, that happened.
I hate you so much right now.
Physical media, it's great.
I thought I'd buried that in the deepest core of my mind, and then you just had to just excavate out
the
with
words,
the dynamite.
Mrs. Hudson.
Yeah. Well, then again, what if you really want Horimiya to, like, really be, like, a product of its time where it's even more older? Like, what they need is to have them do a karaoke scene where they just have that little bee that turns up, like, and it just, like, the bee character, whatever it is on these karaoke machines, that, like, really fucking ancient.
Man, yeah, that's a rough. A bouncing ball, a bouncing bee. Yeah, Kate says that that there is more homophobia to be read into in the manga, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I'm not going to excuse the anime for this or the manga for it, but I get the intent that it's not meant maliciously. But that, when I say that, I only offer that as a way of explanation, not excusing, because ultimately the end product is what matters. Yeah. And I would in turn invite people who are listening to this podcast who are not cishet, like, if you've watched Horimiya and you do think self, like, no, some of that's a bit fucking sketchy, that tell me about it. And now is actually probably a perfect segue for me to plug where you can find me on the internet, funnily enough. So if you want to talk to me about Horimiya or any other show that I'm currently covering, or anything for that matter, you can find me at Shadon1010 on Twitter. I do very strongly open, like, I've got my doors open for that. Please do talk to me about it, offer your perspectives. I want to be educated. And in turn, Doc, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, I am at the Subtle Doctor on Twitter. I feel that those jokes, the intent is ill, but I think where I come down is, like, the ratio is so small that I am able to compartmentalize. But I think, like, as you often say, your mileage may vary. That's just my personal experience. I can see how that would make the show not for someone. But no, at the Subtle Doctor on Twitter, I look at my bio. You'll see what I like to talk about. Talk to me about those things or anything else. Any anime under the sun you want to tell me to watch, or disagree with my opinions, or think I'm very smart for having good opinions, which no one in the history of Twitter has done that yet. So you'd be the first person to do that. Yeah, tweet me at the Subtle Doctor. That's where I be.
Oh, show. And I'll leave off by just saying that if you enjoyed this podcast and want to support us financially, you can pop over to patreon.com/Warui-show. We've got 3 tiers, 2, 3, $5 of increasing value and return rewards. Gets you access to more and more podcasts. Do feel free to check it out. If you're listening to this on the free to air and you actually want to support us instead through the means of, non-financial methods, like, times are tough, not all of us got a lot of money. I'm totally cool with that. I don't blame you in the slightest. All I would ask, therefore, drop us a like, drop us a subscribe. The usual social media engagement methods. Smash all those buttons. We've been through this rigmarole before. You've been told it by a million different people. You know how this tango works. So yeah, do feel free to do that for us.
Go to the Apple iTunes app on your mobile device.
Yes.
Leave us the 5-snake review and a review, not simply the 5-snake rating, but the review. I'm going to check live on air and see if we've gotten any new reviews. Like, we've gotten a few new ratings. But I'm going to check and see if we've gotten new reviews. I'm signing in. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Your Apple ID can only be used from the devices you approve. And it's now got to send me a 2-factor code. It's not worth it. I'm not doing this. So I'm going to assume.
I'm going. No, Doc, I'm disagreeing. I'm just going to be here, like, picturing him. Like, we've got all the reviews.
So many reviews.
All of them. And they're so good.
We've gotten a fair few ratings, which I'm very happy about.
That'll do. Thank you very much for that. Do feel free to help us on that front. Otherwise, I think that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you very much, everyone who's joined us, be it live on air or listening to us after the fact. You're all amazing. Please take care, stay safe. None of us are out of the woods yet with the current situation, even if things are getting better in certain respects. But other than that, I will leave it there from myself and Doc. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care, stay safe, enjoy your weekend. And as always, as we often say on this podcast, embrace sure for everyone to the ends of the universe. Good night.
Good night.